Hey, Felipe, I'm going to tell you right now, turn David down a little bit because he's just talking normal and it popped a little bit. So I'm imagining when we start and we go, it'll pop. So just be cognizant of it.
You went 6-6.
Yeah.
I went 8-5. Did really well in college. I was 7-3 on the Bulls. By the way, I think we did well picking winners because I went 10-2 straight up. I lost Atlanta and I lost the Dolphins. And obviously, you get a tie
We
on
picked
the Washington
NFL winners.
We did when we did a segment. I wrote. He's 2-2 with tonight's game pending, and it goes game of the week, right?
Watch the 5 Slamma Jamma 30 for 30.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good. They spend the whole show trying to find one player that basically Anders that basically disappeared and no one had heard from him in 20 years and they find him in Detroit. It's kind of cool. But it was on yesterday at like 9. They were at Sunday school and I didn't want to watch pre-games. I'm like, let's leave this on for an hour and a half.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, come on, they're on 18. I know. Are you willing to say Niners are the best team in the NFC now with Brock Purdy? Remember, they did play the Dolphins without both. And also, the Dolphins played without both their starting tackles. So, yeah, it may go through the NFC East. It's like old times. Yeah, broken foot for Garoppolo out for the year. So they're down to their third and fourth string quarterbacks. Jacob Eason now will get activated off the practice squad. He'll become the backup. Brock Purdy and Jacob Eason. Is there a quarterback sitting home? Seriously, that they can talk out of? I mean, do you think they called Drew Brees? I am excited for tonight's game. Yeah, how funny is that? Seriously, though, if you're the Niners, I mean, do you call Ryan Fitzpatrick up and say, dude, come on now?
$30 seconds.
You jerking our bobber, KW? Is that what you are early this morning? No, Tua was not good.
He was terrible.
Tua had a bad game. So did Mahomes, by the way.
10 seconds. Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How was your weekend? Let's start the week together, shall we? How the the heck are you? Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us the first Monday of December. I come at you from Tampa, the site of Monday Night Football tonight, the Bucks and the Saints. What a glorious division the NFC South is. Mark comes at you from the cozy confines 2 hours due south of Southwest Florida. Good morning, my friend. How was your weekend?
Fantastic, David. Really good weekend. Obviously, the football was tremendous. We now have a college football playoff in front of us. We have a few more answers as far as the NFL season goes. And a couple of big boys got together yesterday, and the same one won, David.
You mean the Chiefs and the Bengals?
The Chiefs and the Bengals. And I'll be the Cincinnati Bengals with a big victory yesterday.
Yeah. And now, a little bit of room cleared between them and some wild card hopefuls, and Lamar Jackson going to be out a little while. Jimmy Garoppolo out for the rest of the year. This NFL certainly doesn't lack for drama. That is
and a little hitch in our giddy up this morning with David's connection. So I'll let him regroup and see if we can't get a little better feed from Tampa this morning as we connect with David via our Zoom link this morning. And sometimes it cuts out and sometimes the gremlins come after us. But yes, David, a little more separation, a few more answers, and, well, a college football playoff that brought teams back in after championship weekend.
Mark, this was like the old days in which we could have had a BCS year this year. We could just have Georgia and Michigan go play, and people would have been okay with it. Because nobody's happy with number 4. I mean, nobody's happy with a team backing in. People are mostly okay with TCU. But we could have done a BCS year this year, as it turned out. If Georgia and Michigan were assigned to play one another for a national championship right now, anybody have a problem?
No, but if we had 12, I don't know if anybody'd have a problem either. I mean, that's the thing with the backing in. I think with 12 on the horizon, I didn't hear the clamoring of going backward. I did hear more people saying, when this gets to 12, this would be pretty fun.
Oh, no one was thinking about going backwards because we never go backwards. But I'm just saying that as it turned out at the end, all right, nobody was happy with 4. I mean, it didn't matter if they chose Ohio State, if they chose Bama, if they chose Tennessee. You want to come up and choose a 3-loss conference champion in K-State or Utah. Honestly, there was no number 4 pick that anyone was happy with. And if you had said to them, okay, I tell you what, 4 or 2, we just have Georgia and Michigan go play. I think it was TCU lost. People are like, you know what, just let them go play. Honestly. I'm not happy with Ohio State backing in. I'm not happy if they pick Alabama up, like that. What's that game with the claws? Okay, and you never win. Okay, the claw goes down and it never seems to grab the stuffed animal, and you can't get it to the slot. Even when you do get it, you're bringing it to the slot and it drops. All right, that
would have been more fun on ESPN than the 4-hour show if they would have just put one of those cranes in there and filled half of the thing with Buckeye mascots and the other half with little elephants there, and whichever one made it to the slot, that's who got the 4 spot. In fact, it would have been even more fun if Nick would have been playing the game, because can't you see him getting really frustrated not being able to pull the stuffed animal out, beating on the glass?
Tell you what, I don't know what was more surprising. And first off, you and I were riding the upsets, okay? We thought stuff was going to happen this week. I actually got them both right, that both upsets happened. But Nick did not. That was not a good look for Nick on Saturday night. All right, it just wasn't. I'm stunned, actually. Alabama is such control freaks. Nick is a control freak. They've got beautiful facilities. They've got so many people working for him. All right. I can't believe once USC lost Friday night that Alabama wasn't on top of things. That Saturday morning, somebody didn't say, boys, we're alive. We're actually in the conversation this morning. We weren't yesterday. We are today. Nick, what do you want to do? You want to go politic? And if so, where do you want to go? And they've got beautiful places, well lit, the whole deal. Nick, I thought the lighting was horrible. He looked old, and he came off poorly. I mean, it's like he didn't get the talking points, Mark. You know how we hate in politics, parties, both of them have talking points. And for a week, everybody goes out and they say there's 4 same damn things. It's like, oh, wow, everybody got the memo. Well, Nick didn't get the memo. And Nick went off the top of his head, and it was not good. And I don't know if it's going to work, Mark. I don't think it was. But I don't think he hammered home the right. He starts talking about point spreads and his quarterback being injured. And Nick, just pound the fact you're in the SEC. You got 6 teams that are ranked. Big Ten's got 3. Big 12's got 3. This is not a hard argument to make. It may not be a winning argument, but Nick, this is a real easy argument. You just look at the camera and you go, hey, I mean, if they were in our conference, they'd probably have our record, maybe worse. Think about it. All right. And this is the point he should have made. South Carolina. He should have looked into the camera and go, is there a third place team in a division in any other conference that could knock out 2 teams from the national playoff? Because that's what South Carolina did. If Tennessee had beat South Carolina, they'd be number 4. If Clemson had beat South Carolina, they'd be number 4. South Carolina knocked 2 teams out of the playoff. That's what Nick should have said. That's why we should go. Our conference is really hard. The others, not so much. How could they not get those talking points to him? We just got it to him in 3 minutes.
Point spreads in the state will be the last state that'll legalize gambling. I mean, that was the irony to me, David, is that he's going point spreads in Alabama, which will be just behind Russia with legalizing gambling.
In fact, they may be behind Russia because Putin's apparently going to die next year. Okay. And so that means that there's a possibility of it happening in Russia before Alabama.
You are right.
Although I got to tell you, Florida doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon either. I mean, come on, boys. Let's get it together now. Come on.
Yeah, you've been reelected. You're going to run for president. Can you get the gambling done here? You got a few months here before you got to switch gears to the Oval Office. So let's get this gambling thing done. Can you get this pushed through, Ron? Please.
By the way, and also you want to get it through, say this. You know where the money goes? Hurricane relief. About $1.5 billion a month, by the way, is what they'll make in Florida if they were to legalize gambling and do it the way the other states are doing it. So that's about 15 to 18 billion. Towards you say it goes to hurricanes. Oh well, we're just trying to help Nick, trying to help DeSantis. That's all. Just a little friendly advice this morning. First 10 minutes of the week here on Miller and Moulton.
But you're right. Nick did not give his best argument and didn't look good in doing so. I don't think it mattered. I think the one thing that happened Saturday, and I was actually happy for it, is there seemed to be, from Friday night of USC losing to the kickoff of TCU, was that TCU was in. They had to blow it to get knocked out. And when they made overtime, I think we all felt TCU was in.
Well, okay. Did you watch the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. When they're down 28-17, are they in? That's the question I'd love to. Yes, that's the question I'd love to ask all of you. When they're down 28-17 mid fourth quarter, is TCU in? Or was the line? Think about how perilous their cliff was. Or do you say at that moment, I think it's Ohio State, Alabama. And then when they rally and force overtime, do you go, okay, they're in? If so, think how, tenuous really then a whole season's worth of work was if they needed the final 7 minutes of the fourth quarter of the Big 12 championship game to secure the spot. That's what I'd love to ask everybody. When you were watching the Big 12 title game and they were down 28-17, did you have them in?
And I didn't. I don't know about you, David. In watching that game, I didn't at 28-17. I'm watching that going, I'll be damned. We're going to get 2 SEC and 2 Big Ten. And all of a sudden, a little drive, they get the field goal, and then, I mean, that kid running the football in that final drive.
Well, this is the other thing. We tried to tell everybody, stop talking about the Heisman and stop talking about the playoff until all the games are done. We forget. We have such a short attention span. We forget how late many of these things are decided. And I'm wondering how many of you now would vote for the K-State quarterback for the Heisman after this weekend's events. And I don't usually bring stuff like this up, but Mark, I'm wondering how many votes the USC quarterback cost himself by his little nail artwork there. How many people think about who's voting for the Heisman, by the way. All right. Bunch of middle-aged and older white people. How many of them took a look at his little blank Utah that he put on his fingernails, which got a lot of media attention, and thought to myself, I'm not voting for this kid. He's a jerk.
I think if he wouldn't have got hurt, it wouldn't have
Maybe
made a
so.
bit of difference. But
Maybe so. I don't think his artwork helped him.
it certainly didn't. And obviously getting hurt in the first half and after jumping out to a lead and then the team not being able to do anything with you actually could say that would help him prove how valuable he was. But in the end, will it do so? Great show lined up for you today. We will talk things other than football on the show today. Gary Danielson will join us to talk the college football playoff. Steve Carney, founder of the St. Pete Nine, their stadium talk going on in Tampa. We'll talk to him about that. And Matt Baker, who covers the Gators and Knowles and college football for the Tampa Times, will join us on Miller and Moulton.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all of this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. So I had to run a couple of errands. And once TCU didn't score, I left because I knew that game was over. I could listen to the field goal in the car. And then I put your game on. And the Georgia radio announcers had that blocked field goal. I mean, they did it perfectly.
It was funny. It's blocked. And the ball's rolling there. And not one LSU player moved to the right of the hash.
Right.
Literally the entire 40% of the field there. And that's why, the Georgia players were leave it alone. And then the one DB kind of circled back. And you see him clearly look up.
Oh, yeah. He's got his hands over the ball, basically.
And he's like, well, shit, there's nobody here. And so I thought our cutaway of Todd Monken, though, was great when Monken's yelling, no, leave it alone. And then all of a sudden he picks it up. I mean,
Adam, are you sticking a fork in the Jags? Are they done after you?
Yeah, really.
Trevor Lawrence was bad, too.
Didn't even show up. I mean,
cost me a lot of fantasy money. I had everything wired for sound, but my quarterback sucked. Hey, guess what? The one you did get right that I got wrong was Chargers Raiders. You had that.
Well, I think the only one we disagreed on was KC Cincy, right? I mean, otherwise, I think we had pretty much consensus picks.
I picked the Chargers. I know that.
Right. But we both took the Dolphins. We were wrong. I think we both took the Falcons, right? Or did you take the Steelers?
No, I took the Falcons.
We both took the Cowboys. We both took Seattle. We both took Cleveland. We both took Baltimore. We both took Detroit because we bet it.
Mm-hmm.
We both took the Packers. Both took the Eagles. Both took the Vikings. I mean,
$15 seconds.
uh-oh. I'm sensing some consternation from Adam towards his Jags.
He's done. So I asked him if he was done.
You watch.
Very good.
One win.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton with Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. I come at you from Tampa, the site of Monday Night Football tonight. Bucks and Saints. I know the Bucks can't clinch the division mathematically tonight. But, Mark, I'm telling you, Bucks win tonight. They're winning the NFC South, and they're not even going to need that final game in Atlanta. That's how big I think tonight's game is. And if they lose tonight, I think anything's possible with the bottom half of the division, to be brutally honest with you.
If they lose tonight, they'll still win the division. Just a matter of whether 7 will be the number to do so.
Wow. It could be the right 7. You're onto something. Even if they win tonight, it could be the right 7. So Bucks and Saints, they don't like one another. That's the good thing about these games. They genuinely don't like one another. So that even if stylistically this is not a pretty game, it'll be an intense game. Bucks favored by 3.5. Listen, you and I riding high these last 5 weeks. We took a lot of flack for 2+ years about Tua. So we were riding high these last 5 weeks. Very understated. Just asking people, so how much does he suck? How much do we suck? Come on now. I can't hear you. Well, he and they were not good yesterday.
Yeah, he stunk yesterday.
And he's not good. Not good. I think he was kind of freaked out by not having his 2 tackles and by the Niners getting to him early, and it affected him. And he said so afterwards. He said, I was not good. Zach Wilson, by the way, the Jets needs to observe things like this. Tua was like damn near the player of the month in the NFL in November. He comes out first weekend in December, isn't very good. All right. And says, yeah, I wasn't very good. We can't win if I play like that. Huh? Yeah. You're right.
You're 100% right. And still, despite playing poorly, they had opportunities in that game, but couldn't get it done in the second half.
Well, down 6 in the fourth quarter with the ball, right?
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking to myself, man, are they going to steal this sucker? I don't usually feel badly for NFL teams. Everybody's getting paid a decent living. But I do feel badly for the Niners. I mean, it's one thing you lose 1 quarterback, but to lose 2, I mean, come on. You put a team together, you're trying to win a Super Bowl, you got a shot too. You've got a shot. And now you're down to your 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks. Oh, man. Thankfully, the way they play, you still think, they're viable. But, I mean, Mark, can you win a Super Bowl with, is it Brock Purdy they're down to?
I'm pretty sure you can't, David. I'm pretty darn sure you can't. Although the kid looked fine yesterday.
I know. That's why you're like, no, they can't win a Super Bowl with Mr. Irrelevant, can they? Final pick of the draft. Brock Purdy. You got a Purdy mouth. Yeah. That's who their quarterback is now the rest of the way. See, the accent just doesn't fit with the Niners.
No, it doesn't.
Like it fit with the Saints.
And I'd hope that you refrain from doing that ever again.
Okay. These are your
you know what it really is, David. You know what's going on in San Francisco right now?
What?
An absolute catastrophe.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what you know what? That's my poll question of the week to you. There are certain things that we tolerate from each other. All right. Here's your options. I can go Brock Purdy. You got a Purdy mouth. Okay. Or I can go for the rest of the week. Harry Kane. Because England's alive till at least the end of the week till they play France in the quarters.
Those are my choices?
Yes. One or the other. Which you get either Harry Kane or, as you said, it's an absolute catastrophe. You get something along those lines. Or I can't do that, but I can go, who's the quarterback of the Niners? Brock Purdy. He got a Purdy mouth.
I'll get back to you on that. I'm leaning Harry Kane. But you are right, because San Francisco seems to have everything lined up. I mean, they've got all the elements of a great football team, and now they've lost yet another quarterback.
Back to the Dolphins for a second. In a way, I mean, obviously losing is not a good day at the office, but just about everything else went right for them this week. The Jets lost, so they're still a game ahead of the Jets. Both the Chargers and the Patriots lost. So right now, 7-5 is the final wild card in the AFC. Well, they're 8-4. And there's only one team at 7-5. That's the Jets. The 2 teams closest to the Jets are both 6-6. The Dolphins are 2 games clear for a playoff spot. Now, I know, you were thinking AFC East heading into yesterday, and now that's going to be tough. I mean, it's difficult to imagine the Dolphins can win the AFC East unless they, Probably win out, but certainly go to Orchard Park and win. And considering right now they don't have an offensive tackle who's competent on the roster, this is a problem. But, Mark, I'm willing to go so far as to say if the Dolphins can beat the Chargers this coming weekend, they're in the playoffs.
Well, that would put them what?
Well,
Three clear of the Chargers.
Right, and minimum 2 clear of the Patriots.
Who they've already beaten.
Right. And we think are going to end up with a better division record then. And the Patriots still have to go to Buffalo. So we're thinking at the very least New England's going to end up with 7 losses, no better than 10-7. Dolphins, if they beat the Chargers, get to 9. I mean, an awful lot will have to go wrong if the Dolphins can win against the Chargers, a game that we circled in May. In May, we circled this game and said, this is going to be a win and you make the playoffs game. And if you're a Dolph fan and you're down today in the whole deal, you're 2 games clear to make the playoffs. And right now, you'd make the playoffs as a 6th seed. You know who you'd play? Baltimore. That's right, Baltimore. Now, with Lamar hurt, and even the Ravens don't know how long he's going to be out, John Harbaugh said, we'll let you know either Monday afternoon or Wednesday. But, I mean, I don't know now if the Ravens, Mark, are going to hold off the Bengals.
Seems unlikely, even though the Bengals have still a pretty difficult schedule remaining. But if the Ravens lose their quarterback, seems that the Bengals have it going on. They did just beat Kansas City, oh, by the way.
In fact, the Bengals are looking around going, you know, we host Buffalo in a month. And if we win out, we'll be the 1. That's what the Bengals are thinking right now. Now, I will say they're a game behind the Bills. If they win out, they'll catch them and they'll have beaten them head-to-head. And believe it or not, even though the Bengals are the 5 seed right now, the Bengals are like, we beat the Chiefs. We're hosting the Bills in a month. You know, if we win out, the only help we need is we need the Chiefs to lose 1 more game. And if that happens, we're going to be the 1, boys.
Now, the Chiefs' schedule very favorable the rest of the way. They will be favored and overwhelming favorites in every game they play the rest of the season. But David is right that the Bengals, if they can win out, at worst are the 2. That's the way they're thinking right now.
Right. And need 1 piece of help. 1. So not a good day for the Dolphins on the field, but you know what? About as good a weekend as you could imagine in terms of just getting into the darn playoffs.
Miller and Moulton. When we come back, David will have the starting 5. Gary Danielson coming up in a little more than an hour right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs, presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs, powered by Clutch Vodka.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. FLGolfCarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, FLGolfCarts.com. FLGolfCarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. You know, was the Giants kicked a long field goal to try to win the game?
They attempted like a
Why
58-yard.
Washington didn't have a guy back on the under the goalpost is beyond me.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, what are you thinking? The
Maybe
tie
there's-
game, you got one shot to win the game, and it's to run that back.
Or block it and then do it that way. So, but yeah. Ballsy, you're playing Patrick Mahomes. You don't play the percentages and run the ball and take 40 seconds off the clock and punt it back to him. And the Chiefs would have had the ball with 1:05 to go, needing a field goal. No way. You got one play to win the game. Try to win the game.
Kept waiting for the Jags to make a comeback because, it was the Lions.
Kept waiting for the Jets to punch one in the red zone.
They couldn't do that.
1st and goal at the 4, 2nd and goal at the 1. 2nd and goal at the 1.
15 seconds. Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Gary Danielson to join us 1 hour from now. We got a lot to get to. An awful lot transpired since we were last on the air. It is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Tua and the Dolphins offense after the first play of the game was not very good. And the Niners front 4 whooped up on them. 33-17 San Francisco. Both teams are now 8-4. However, bad news for the Niners. Jimmy G, broken left foot, out for the rest of the year. San Francisco down to Brock Purdy, Purdy. Last player taken in the draft, Brock Purdy, is their quarterback. Jacob Eason is now the backup quarterback. Jacksonville, so much for all the progress they've made. Whew, man, a no-show at Detroit. Lions beat them 40-14. Detroit's won 4 of 5. The only loss in the last 5 weeks, that Thanksgiving game to the Bills. Jared Goff, 340 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Lions are 5-7, 2 games out of the playoffs. I can't believe I actually uttered that sentence. Jags dropped to 4-8. Falcons, 2 weeks in a row now, they held their opponent to under 20 points and lost, this time at home to the Steelers, 19-16. Steelers trying to keep that Mike Tomlin streak intact of never having a losing season. They're 5-7. Won 2 in a row. Falcons fall to 5-8, which is good news for the Bucs. Remember, Bucs and Saints tonight in Tampa. Brady and company, a 3.5-point favorite. Jets were 1 for 6 in the red zone, Mark, scoring touchdowns. Vikings, meanwhile, were 3 for 3. That would seem to be a stat that might make a difference in a game. 27-22 Vikings. They're now 10-2, by the way. Thank you very much. 10-2.
And considered better than the 4th team in the NFC right now.
Right, even though they're the 2 seed.
Right, but they are considered no better than the 4th. Dallas is better, the Eagles are better, and the Niners are better. Even with Brock Purdy, everybody thinks the Niners are better.
Correct. Because apparently the Vikings have Mold as a quarterback. I mean, that's the regard that Kirk Cousins is held in by NFL fans. Who's their quarterback? Mold. Oh, yeah, that's right. Speaking of the Eagles, Mark, they're 11-1. They whooped up on the Titans, and nobody had whooped up on the Titans. I mean, the Titans had lost 4 previous games, but nobody had whooped up on them. All right. Buffalo did a little bit week 2. But 35-10 Philly. Hurts with 4 more touchdowns, 3 of them passing. A.J. Brown caught 2 of those 3 touchdown passes against his former team. If you went to bed before the 4th quarter last night, you might be shocked by this final score. But what was 21-19 going to the 4th ended up 54-19 Dallas. Cowboys are 9-3, scored in the last 33 points of the game. Colts fall to 4-8-1, and even in the AFC South, that puts you out of it. Packers beat the Bears because, well, it's a law. 8th straight win versus Chicago. Bears have now lost 6 in a row. Remember when Monday night they ran for 250 and beat the Patriots? Yeah, they've lost 6 straight since. Bengals beat the Chiefs 27-24. Wasn't that the final of the AFC Championship game last year? Only it was in overtime? Was that 27-24? This time the Bengals had to come from behind, but not as big a deficit late, and Burrow with a touchdown pass, and then they ran out the clock. Since he's 8-4, Chiefs are 9-3. It means the Bills, with their Thursday night win at 9-3, are back as the 1 seed because they beat the Chiefs head-to-head in the AFC. Well, if you thought the Denver defense was mad at Russell Wilson last week, they held Baltimore to 10 and lost. Lamar got hurt second quarter, did not return. They say it's not a season-ending knee injury, but that it's one that will likely keep him out a couple of weeks. They'll have more either later today or Wednesday is what they said, but Huntley scored late. 10-9 Baltimore over Denver. Ravens, despite the 8-4 record, are hurt. They do not look like a good team right now. Cleveland, Mark, scored 2 defensive touchdowns and had a special team score. The offense did virtually nothing. Deshaun Watson, not good in his first game in 23 months. 131 yards passing and an end zone interception. But they beat Houston because, as John McClain, who's been on the show, says, I've been covering the NFL for 50 years. It's the worst offense I've ever seen. 27-14 Cleveland over the 1-10-1 Texans, who I think we can now officially put on the clock. Seattle improved to 7-5. Geno Smith, game-winning drive late, hit DK Metcalf for the touchdown with 36 seconds to go to propel them to a 27-23 win over the 3-9 defending Super Bowl champion Rams. Vegas has won 3 in a row. It's probably too late, but the good team is emerging, and Derek Carr and Devontae Adams hooked up for about 180 yards worth of passes. 27-20 over the 6-6 Chargers. Chargers host the Dolphins. Is this Sunday night? Didn't it get flexed to Sunday night?
Yes.
And Monday night, Bucs host the Saints. We had a tie yesterday. We had a tie. Giants with a chance to put away the Commanders late. Taylor Heineke with some more heroics. A game-tying drive at the end of regulation. 2020, they settle for the sister kisser in overtime. Giants are 7-4-1. Commanders are 7-5-1. Second tie of the year in the NFL. If we did the playoffs right now, Philly's the 1, Minnesota the 2, San Francisco the 3, Tampa the 4 in the NFC. Dallas, the Giants, and Seahawks are your wild cards. Washington a half a game out at 7-5-1. AFC, Buffalo's the 1, KC the 2, Baltimore the 3, Tennessee the 4. Cincy's the 5, the Dolphins would be the 6 seed. And if you're the Dolphins right now, you'd take a first-round date in Baltimore. You'd sign up and be on that plane by noon. And the Jets are the 7, a game ahead of the Chargers and the Patriots. Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State ends up being the 4-team college football playoff. Bama and Tennessee were 5-6. USC dropped all the way to 10th with their loss in the Pac-12 title game. UCF dropped out of the final rankings with their loss in the AAC championship game. Florida State, Mark, at 13, your highest-ranked Florida team, and it wasn't close. If, by the way, we had the 12-team playoff for this year, based on the final rankings, and remember, the new rules are going to be top 6 conference champions get automatic bids. Bids. They don't host or get buys. They just get bids. Then it all depends on how the playoff committee ranks them. Mark, this is how the 12-team playoff would look like. Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State would get the buys. Alabama would be 5, Tennessee 6, Clemson 7, Utah 8. Those 4 schools would get home games. Utah, as the 8 seed, would host Big 12 champion K-State, the 9 seed. It's a pretty good game. Clemson, as the 7 seed, would host 10th seeded USC. I think a few people would be interested in that. Tennessee, as the 6 seed, would host 11th ranked Penn State. Tennessee, Penn State in Knoxville. And 5th seeded Alabama would host 16th seeded Tulane, they were the 6th highest ranked conference champion out of the AAC. So that would be your 12-team playoff if we were using it this year based on the final college football rankings. For the record, Mark, the Gators are in the Vegas Bowl. It's one of the very first bowl games played. It's played 2 Saturdays from now against Oregon State, who's going for a 10-win season. Yeah. UCF ends up in the Military Bowl on December 28th against Duke. Florida State's going to play Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl. Rematch of that national championship game 22 years ago. That'll be on December 29th. Those are your 3 Florida Bowl schools. Major League Baseball, if you missed it late Friday night, Jacob deGrom signed with the Texas Rangers. 5 years, $185 million. That's $37 per. Full no-trade clause. And there's a 6-year option based on certain, if he pitches a certain number of innings. So this could be 6 for $222, fully guaranteed, no trade for deGrom and the Rangers. And that Contemporary Baseball Executive Committee, Mark, met yesterday, and they voted Fred McGriff unanimously. All 16 of them voted the Crime Dog into the Hall of Fame, and they voted no one else. You needed 12 of the 16 votes, 75%, just like on the ballot. Don Mattingly got half the votes, 8. He was second. Schilling was third at 7. Dale Murphy was fourth at 6. Albert Bell, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro all got less than 4 votes out of the 16.
Should tell you everything you need to know about their candidacy with this group.
Yeah, less than 4, and you got to get to 12.
They're done.
I'm surprised Schilling only got 7. I really am. I don't understand. I don't know what being a horse's butt, if you think he is, has to do with his baseball resume. I just don't get it. I don't. I'm sorry. College hoops in state. Miami beat Louisville by 27. UCF over Samford in overtime. FGCU beat FIU 74-65. Florida beat Stetson by 38. That's a good win for the Gators. Stetson's been pretty good this year. FAU beat Eastern Michigan by 28. On the women's side, the Gators, the Noles, and the Canes all won. So did FGCU and FIU. UNF and Stetson lost. NBA, don't look now. The Lakers have won 8 of 10. And AD at 55 last night. Thank you very much. In their 11-point win in Washington. Knicks beat Cleveland by 11. Memphis beat Detroit by 10. Sacramento over Chicago by 9. Portland beat Indiana by 16. Mark, this just in. The Celtics are going to be really good this year.
This whole winter sport Boston thing's going really well for them right now.
Yeah, it really is. The Celtics and the Bruins look like they're going to be a problem. Boston beat the Nets by 11. They're 19-5. Phoenix beat San Antonio by 38. New Orleans beat Denver by 15. Islanders shut out the Blackhawks. Sabres doubled up San Jose. Your Wings did the same to Columbus 4-2. Winnipeg over Anaheim 5-2. And the Wild, in a wild one, 6-5 over Dallas in a shootout. France and England both won yesterday comfortably. France 3-1 over Poland. England 3-0 over Senegal. Harry Kane had a goal. And France and England are going to meet in the quarters. Japan against Croatia, Brazil against South Korea today. Winners advance to the quarters. If you missed it, the U.S. got beat by the Netherlands 3-1 on Saturday morning. Mark Miller said the Netherlands would score 3 goals. I think you had it 3-0.
No, I had it 3-1.
You had it 3-1. Look at that. Nailed it. Oh, man, you would have won something.
This is where I'm at. I can pick a World Cup game.
Well, you would have picking the exact score in a soccer match that's some coin right there. Victor Hovland won the Hero World Challenge by 2 over Scotty Scheffler. And Greg Norman told Tiger and Rory to hold my beer. That was pretty much the golf highlights over the weekend. And at 8 minutes before the hour, that was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
All right, gut feeling. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited would you be for these games as a whole? Alabama, Tulane, Tennessee hosting Penn State, Clemson hosting USC, Utah hosting K-State.
Oh, I'd be up there. That's a 9. That's an 8-9 for me. I would be fired up about this. And I don't know if I will every year, and the newness of it will be part of it as well, David. But the home games in December, I am so fired up to see this.
Well, that's what we'd have if this year, the way it played out, would have been put into a 12-team playoff. And it looks like we're going to only one more year of the current system after this. A whole bunch of change is coming to college football for 2024. So there you have it.
And the irony, as you mentioned, in a year where we really had to.
Right.
Where we could have gone backward, not forward, is the year we're talking about 12. And maybe that's why I'm excited, because the way the conference championship games were played out, 3 and 4, both losing, propelling Ohio State back into the college football playoff where they get Georgia, TCU, and Michigan will play one another. Georgia, 6.5-point favorite. Michigan, a 9.5-point favorite against TCU. Gary Danielson, he will join us in about 40 minutes right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Looks like that's what they're trying to do, Larry.
I got the clutch play.
Okay.
And we got 30 seconds. Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Hour 2 of Miller and Moulton on this first Monday of December. Thanks so much for being with us. Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. I come at you from Tampa, the site of Monday Night Football this evening. The Bucs hosting the Saints. Brady and company a 3.5-point favorite to try to get back to 500 and take a commanding 2-game in the loss column lead in the NFC South, which could be enough just to win the division, even if they don't do much more. Then again, if the Saints win tonight, holy Toledo, is this going to be a mess heading down the stretch. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. Gary Danielson in about 35 minutes' time. The Rays made some news over the weekend. They seemingly are all in on St. Pete.
Why?
Exactly. It's why we have Steve Carney coming on a little more than an hour to go, what the heck is this all about? Is this real? Is this a waste of time? Is this going to lead them to leave more than stay? So that's worth getting into. And Steve Carney will join us in a little more than an hour about that. An hour and a half from now, Matt Baker joins us. He's an AP voter and a Heisman voter. Talk to him about who USF ends up hiring. The Tennessee offensive coordinator, another young guy with no experience. I thought they were going to hire somebody with experience.
Well, somebody with experience had to want the job.
Well, there were a few that wanted it, just not their top two. Dion and Chadwell there, who's going to Liberty. So I don't understand why they couldn't find a third guy with experience. But we'll ask him first off who we voted for the Heisman. All right. And for what it's worth, his final rankings, who he had 1 through 4 and were in his playoff. And then we'll talk to him about the USF gig with Matt Baker in a little more than an hour and a half. But back to the NFL, Mark. Did anything happen so far during, what is this, week 12? 13, week 13, technically. Did anything happen so far during week 13 to change your view about a team in which you're like, you know what, I've changed my mind, blank?
I don't know about change my mind, but Cincinnati's win yesterday was impressive. I didn't have them winning against the Chiefs. I had the Chiefs winning on the road. And I think Cincinnati reminded everybody that there are more than 2 teams in the AFC. I think we looked at the Bills and we looked at the Chiefs, and we saw a collision course again for these 2 teams. And the Cincinnati Bengals raised their hand and said, can we just wait a minute? We did go to the Super Bowl last year. So if anything yesterday, I thought the Bengals just reminded everybody that it's not a 2-team race in the AFC.
And do you think yesterday the Bengals said, you know, last year was not a fluke?
Yes.
Is that what yesterday was all about with the Bengals? We're pretty good, I got to say, when you have a Joe Burrow. If we could all just get ourselves a Joe Burrow, that would really help. That would really help. And they're not perfect. He's not perfect. You know, they screwed up around the goal line. I mean, you know, you got 4th and goal at like the 4-yard line. I'd block the defense's best player, but that's me. You know, they decided to run a play and not block him. You know, okay. But it was good fun. It was an entertaining game. Some quarterbacks and some offenses were brought down to earth yesterday. Mahomes and the Chiefs, Tua and the Dolphins. It happens. That's why we play.
Love to get your thoughts on this or any of the games. 21,000 is the text number. 21,000. If you've never texted before, FSN Radio is the keyword, FSN Radio. We did get this text, David, from a Dull fan that said, I'm not really down. Tua played blanky for 3 quarters. Defense got torched by a 3rd-string QB and still had a chance to win the game late in the 4th.
Yeah, that's a mature response, by the way.
It really is.
And if the Dolphins this Sunday take care of business and win on the road, not going to be easy. Desperate team, by the way. They will face a desperate team. I mean, the Chargers know Sunday night if they lose, they're done. They do. They're done.
And I think the Dolphins know if they win, they got a pretty damn good chance of making the playoffs, and they know what they're doing to the Chargers. They know what they're in for.
And also, you know, the Dolphins, I mean, you know, you and I aren't, Mark, but the Dolphins are still thinking about winning the AFC East.
Yes.
And that's the other thing. Dolphins go into L.A. and beat the Chargers. They know, hey, we go to Buffalo for first place in the East. Even if we're a game back, we've already beat them once. If we, by chance, beat them again, guess who's in first and owns the tiebreaker? So, you know, Miami 8-4, Jets at 7-5 are the last playoff team. And the 2 closest teams to the Jets are both 6-6 in the Chargers and the Patriots. So Miami's 2 games clear right now to make the playoffs. And they're playing one of the 2 teams they're 2 games clear of this Sunday. Now, if they lose this Sunday, and then they go into Buffalo, and now all of a sudden 8-6 is staring you in the face, and this is going to get fun. This is going to get fun. So much for that carefree love story of, you know, Mike McDaniel and Tua. They're just great. Look at their relationship. They're so fun. Shouldn't every coach and quarterback, Mark, have that kind of relationship? That's an 8-3 story. Let's re-examine the relationship if you're 8-6.
So that's what's ahead for Miami. And we've been talking about it since the schedule has come out. A 3-game roadie late in the season, all against quality opponents. The first one they couldn't get through. San Francisco gets them. Now it's the LA Chargers. And then Buffalo.
And never mind the whole subplot that you're going to hear about nationally once you get to about Thursday. It's Tua against Herbert. Did each team pick the right guy? Should Dolphins have picked Herbert? I'll say it again. Man, Herbert looks great. Man, he's got great stats. They scored one offensive touchdown yesterday. Now, they had nearly 500 yards of offense. One offensive touchdown. There's just something not working there. Yeah, Sean Payton is literally sitting in the parking lot in the car waiting to be hired for the Chargers job.
Because when they fix their red zone problems, that's a scary football team. But right now, they can't score touchdowns.
So we got a few days to look ahead to that. Anything else happen this weekend?
David, I've been waiting for a couple of weeks for a sub 500 team to string a couple of wins together where you say, hey, can they make a run? And there's nobody that I trust. The one team out there that has now won 4 or 5, nobody can trust because they're the Detroit Lions.
Waiting for you to mention them. If they were not named the Detroit Lions, if they had a different name, all right, if they were, I don't know, the Las Vegas Raiders, who've won 3 in a row and are 5-7. No?
Maybe. Do you think the Raiders or the Lions can keep on keeping on? And I'm not even saying to make the postseason, but to keep their fan bases intrigued where it looks like into week 16, there's still a shot.
Well, here's why I think it's possible with the Raiders. Their next 3 games are the Rams, the Patriots, and the Steelers. There's not a winning team amongst the 3. In theory, Raiders and Rams are this Thursday night in Los Angeles. I mean, if the Raiders can beat a 3-9 team with the third-string quarterback, now they've put 4 in a row on the board. And they got 10 days to prepare to host the Patriots. It's not an outrageous ask, Josh McDaniels, by the way, against Bill. And now all of a sudden, if they get to 7-7, they go to Pittsburgh. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's end of December. Steelers are clearly playing better. You see the formation, by the way, of a good offense coming. The young quarterback, Pickens the wide receiver, Najee the running back, Freiermuth the tight end. You are actually watching the Steelers now. They're not putting it together. They're still scoring about 19, 20 points a game, but you're looking at them and you're like, next year at this time, that might not be a bad-looking team on offense. Throw in a couple offensive linemen, and we may have something. But that's the one mark. I think the Raiders have lost 1 game too many, but I've thought all year that's a good football team.
I know.
It was the loss in New Orleans 24-0 the day before Halloween was the game that I gave up on them. Okay. And then the next week they lost to Jeff Saturday and the Colts. And that's probably the one mark. If they could literally have 1 game back right now, if they were 6-6, same with the Lions. If the Lions had gotten the Bills on Thanksgiving, how many of you'd be putting a few shekels on the Lions right now? Be honest.
Last 3 for the Lions are Panthers, Bears, Packers. But they've got the Vikings this week and at the Jets in between. And I don't know if, they're going to they have to win out, basically. They can afford maybe 1 and go 9-8, but I don't know if 9-8 is going to get it done.
Well,
not with that tie yesterday.
Well, also, they lost head-to-head to Seattle. They lost a shootout earlier in the season to Seattle 48-45. So if they end up 9-8 with the Seahawks go. So it's funny, Mark. I think the tie helps Washington. I think it hurts the Giants. Just based on games remaining and all that. because the Giants also lost head-to-head to Seattle. So they needed to get ahead of Seattle. They still need to get ahead of Seattle, if you know what I mean. And if you think Seattle's going to get to at least 9, and their schedule says they will, then the Giants also have to get to 9. They're only going to be favored in one game the rest of the year.
But that end one with the 9 in front could be enough. So it will be interesting to see how that tie ends up affecting the NFC wildcard race, because I think it will. I think, one of those teams, Giants, Washington, will make it, and it may be because of that tie.
Also, the Giants have a dismal division record right now, whereas Washington, went into Philly and won. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Me too, RCB. I wish the Bucks had that too. They don't. I don't think Todd Bowles is a good coach, guys. Sorry. I think he's a good coordinator, not a good coach. We'll do Dion here.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Gary Danielson will join us in a little less than 20 minutes here on Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Play of the day, a handful of minutes away, but first, prime time. It is time for prime in the Rockies. Dion going? He's gone. He introduced yesterday. Hell of an introductory speech to his new players at Colorado. He basically extended the invitation for all of them to join the transfer portal. I'm bringing my luggage, he said, and it's Louis. How many of the guys you think in the room knew what he was referencing there? Louis Vuitton.
100%. Every single guy in that room.
You want to join the... He didn't say this, but he did say it. Basically, he was saying, you want to join the transfer portal, I'll bring another one in, look just like you. He'll be better, too.
That's what he said. And they'll be better.
I mean, he didn't have to remind them they were like 1-11 or whatever they were. He basically said, I'm bringing in some players, boys. Wouldn't get comfortable in those chairs. And if you want to leave, the door is right there. Let me open it for you.
Introduced his son and said, that's your quarterback.
Yep. Then tried to say he's going to have to earn it, but yeah, he's your quarterback. My best friend lives out in Colorado. He said Dion's going to own this place. He said the Broncos suck right now. People need something else to talk about to distract them from it. You know, Avs already won the cup, so, you know, people aren't paying attention to the Avs till the playoffs. You know, that's what it's all about right now. As for the Nuggets, we'll take them seriously when they make a playoff run. He said Deion is going to take over this region for these next few weeks, recruiting and all that, NIL. So apparently Colorado gave him a blank piece of paper and a pen, though. There's been restrictions in the past about transfers and this, that, and the other thing. You lose enough games long enough, Mark, all that stuff goes away.
And it went away.
My favorite quote is not from Deion. It's from the AD who hired him. And the word is, by the way, they went after Deion like first. Like they were all in on Deion early. And they had to talk Deion into it, the word was. That Deion was apprehensive about, Denver and can I really win at Colorado? And they had to talk him into it. And they persuaded him to South Florida's detriment. Because I think we all wanted him here in Tampa. So the AD's asked yesterday when he introduced Deion, hey, you guys have had budget problems. How can you afford this contract? And he says, oh, we can't. We don't have the money for this contract. He goes, but we're gonna. And it's coming in already.
I want him to win so badly.
So do I.
And it's going to be so incredibly difficult. But if he does, the change that will be coming in college sports, we're already witnessing the greatest change in generations with NIL and the transfer portal and all of the things that are now college football. But if he can turn Colorado around, because they are at the bottom of the Power 5 pool.
Yeah, they're one of the 5 worst Power 5 teams, and 5 may be too generous. They're like bottom 3 right now. They're so bad.
Like Vandy would kick their ass bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to tell you how bad they are.
Kansas would kick their butt right now.
Nebraska would beat them.
Now, it's going to help here. He's only got to play USC, UCLA one more year. And there are a lot of us that think another round is coming. Like, I'm worried about the future of the Pac-12, to be brutally honest. Like, Mark, it would not surprise me if Deion's coaching Colorado in the Big 12 in a few years. I'm really worried because if Oregon and Washington go, I think the conference is toast. And Oregon and Washington want to go.
Would do anything to go.
And
they just are. They're running out like some of your wives are every day to the mailbox to get Christmas cards because they get excited because new cards come. Washington and Oregon are running to their email box every day, praying that Kevin Warren has sent them an email.
Because if Oregon and Washington go, the thought is the Arizona schools are going to the Big 12. So I really don't think if there's one more move that the Pac-12 survives. But back to Deion. So you and I are old enough. We remember when Colorado was a power. We remember Bill McCartney sharing a national title with Georgia Tech in, 90 or 91. We remember Cordell Stewart in Colorado when Colorado would play anybody. Remember the famous pass to beat Michigan on the Hail Mary? And, but when Colorado came and played, it was 20 years ago, Colorado damn near played for the national championship in the BCS era. When the Canes played Miami, Colorado in the polls was, when the Canes played Nebraska, Colorado was actually ranked ahead of Nebraska in the people's polls, but the computer spit out Nebraska. But man, for 20 years, they've been bad.
And we'll find out if Prime can be clutch. Time now for our Clutch Vodka play of the day. Felipe, what do you have for us?
Well, the Browns had a nice 13-point win yesterday. No thanks to Deshaun Watson, but more to the Browns' defense and special teams, which gave me 31 fantasy points yesterday, by the way. And this Donovan Peoples-Jones touchdown off a punt return.
Cameron Johnston standing back inside his 5 at the 2 on the punt. Donovan Peoples-Jones back and catches catches, and he's 25. Now where's he going to go? Cuts right, out of a tackle, out of another tackle, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. He's down the sideline, 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. He's gone. Touchdown, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And on one hit, the Browns take the lead.
And that riveting first half, that made it 6-5, I believe.
Correct.
That point tacked on to make it 7-5. The Browns would go on to defeat the Texans, who are now firmly on the clock.
At 110-1, they've got a game and a half lead for the number one draft rights.
On the Bears, who have slipped in there very quickly. Oh, by the way, that's our Clutch Vodka play of the day. Clutch Vodka. Look for it at retail stores near you. Check them out online at clutchspirits.com. And remember, when you have your Clutch Vodka, to tag all your drinks on social media with the hashtag Clutch Spirits.
How's Jalen Carter going to like Chicago? Because obviously the Bears aren't drafting a quarterback. And I think by now, someone that Gary Danielson's been pounding the table for a month, as this is the guy who's going to be the first non-quarterback taken in the draft, that defensive tackle from Georgia, who on Saturdays looks like he's a combination of Chris Jones and Aaron Donald. So that looks like a pretty good football player. I'm saying.
That'll be another Georgia defensive player. The last one didn't work out real well for him.
No, it didn't. It didn't. New regime, though. New GM, new coach. They didn't draft the guy they traded this year. So you know how that works, Mark. But,
right. They did get rid of a Georgia guy, though. That's all.
It's true. Valid point. But yeah, you're right. Bears, Rams, all those 3-win teams, they're fighting to be number 2. And of course, the beauty is the Rams pick's not theirs. It's Detroit's.
And Denver's pick's not theirs. It's Seattle's. So as we watch these teams crumble, they will be benefiting others in the draft. Nothing clutch about that. That is for certain. Gary Danielson is clutch. SEC on CBS. He will join us coming up next. Steve Carney. We'll talk a little bit on the Tampa Bay Rays Stadium situation and Matt Baker about the Heisman, all still ahead on Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs, presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs, powered by Clutch Vodka.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka play of the day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN play of the day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the play of the day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka play of the day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka play of the day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Charging dock that charges your iPhone, Apple Watch.
Let's go, Osaka! Let's go, Osaka!
Just watch. Look. Hey.
So South Florida is inviting the public. It's open to the public. The press conference announcing their new coach today at 11:30.
You going?
I was thinking about it, but I mean, come on, that or a nap. I mean, if it was Dion, oh man, would I be there? Man, I'd be all over it. That'd be fun. Alex Golesh or whatever. Yeah. That ain't winning the press conference.
Goulash is winning the press conference?
Right.
I thought Lawrence was really hurt with that knee when he went. Did you see that hit that he took yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, Adam, because I've watched the Lions my whole life, I just kept waiting for the Lions to blow it.
Gary's on hold. And we got 30 seconds. Ten seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. only on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Gary Danielson just got done broadcasting his 17th year of SEC football on CBS, and he's getting ready for his 14th Army-Navy game, the 10th broadcast that will originate from Philadelphia. And Gary's kind enough to join us once again. Gary, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you guys, Mark, David? How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty well. You thought during the broadcast late Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening that the committee was leaning towards Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and Ohio State. Were you at all surprised?
No. The only outlier was, when TCU was, behind, would they try to go back to, the resumes are not exactly equal, but close enough that they would take the best and look at which team they thought was better. And if the committee did that, like they've done in past years, they could get, 2-2. And I think that's what the SEC fans or even the commissioner was talking about, that if it's close, you have to look at what our conference is compared to other conferences. And, the benefit of the doubt should go to the SEC because of their strength of their whole body of work as a league, and the fact that 12 of the last 16 championships, even when you put the teams in, have been won by the SEC. So I could have envisioned that happening because of that word "best" in there, but I figured it would be the way it turned out.
Did they get it right in your estimation?
I think they did. TCU doesn't bother me at all. I mean, the way they finished courageously like that was not a problem. The Ohio State, Alabama one, and Tennessee, those three, that's tough. That's splitting hairs. That's, whether two close losses on the road in the SEC having 6 of the top 25 teams, even the fact that, if you look at it, teams aren't even in the top 25 now. I mean, that were before. Florida, they beat a Pac-12 champ. Ole Miss was number 7 or 8 or 9 at one time. Kentucky at one time was right around a top 10 team. And then they had 6 other teams. That has to count for something, but it had to get close enough. And when they put Ohio State 5th beforehand, it looked like it was fait accompli. I think it's a tough swallow for the SEC, though. I really do. Looking at the Big Ten, 2 really, really good teams. Penn State, maybe a notch below. But I think this conference believes that the body of their conference is better than the body of the Big Ten right now.
Gut feeling, do you think that SEC fan needs to get used to, hey, this conference now is going to start beating everybody up? That maybe you'll have one team like Georgia with 0 or 1 loss, but that going forward, that this conference, they got too much invested, too many solid programs, they're going to start dinging everybody.
It would be, except for the 12-team playoff now. I think that they'll most likely get 3 teams in every year, and I think that's enough to represent the conference. And if those teams win one year, they might get 4 the next year. So I think if it was still at 4, and I've always thought 4 was the worst number. It eliminates conferences, and 2 is better than 4, I thought. My number, you guys know this, was always 6, where you would take conference champions. But the committee has been weird in the past on how sometimes they follow resumes, sometimes they say they're close enough to eyeball the best team. So I think when the 12 happens, the next argument will be, should teams, and I think the last time we talked about the fact that these conference championships, there are unintended consequences, and it happened this week. I mean, it knocked out USC. It almost knocked out TCU. And I'll bet, all of those commissioners are going to start looking at these conference championships and going, geez, what are we doing here?
Well, that's the thing, Gary, because the money's so big in the conference champions. We get the idea why they're doing the game.
Right.
But Do you see? I mean, could you imagine having to play for the NFC North Division crown, even though you already made the playoffs in the NFL?
Right.
It doesn't make a lot of sense going forward. Do you think they'll continue?
Mark, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, they also could maybe eventually use the weekend of the conference championships in maybe even another layer of playoffs. I don't know if it can go that wide or that deep, but maybe the conferences own the game, but they don't pit two of their own in it. Maybe they put teams in the playoffs before they play the conference championships, and then how do you sell the conference championship? I don't know. I think it's a problem, though. I really do. And it could have been a lot different. What if LSU had knocked off Texas A&M and, they would have been in the playoffs before they even played Georgia. Tennessee and Alabama sitting there with bids. They didn't have to play. It's a little bit of a mess. And when the Big Ten expands and the same things happens to them in the future, like what happened in the past with Penn State and Ohio State, I think the unintended consequences have not been thought out yet. And I think they're just going to look at it, roll with it for a few years, and then tweak it as it goes along.
He's Gary Danielson, part of the SEC on CBS. Brad and Gary, along with Jenny Dell, will be in Philadelphia Saturday. Last college football game of the regular season. Army and Navy back in.
Do have to admit, I mean, the luck and what was happening to Alabama for the last 2 weeks was incredible. I mean, South Carolina knocks two teams out. I mean, South Carolina beating Clemson knocks them out. And Alabama was sitting there dead in the water. And I mean, in the early fourth quarter of the TCU game, I think most people thought it was 2-2 at that point. I really do.
There were a couple moments in that Big 12 title game. K-State's up 11, and they're fielding the punt, and they muff it. And if they don't muff that punt, the way that game felt at that time is like K-State's going to take this game and run with it. And then they get back up 11 again mid-fourth quarter. And, Gary, I asked Mark, we've been asking our audience, when it was 28-17 K-State, was TCU in?
Right. And the game, I couldn't watch it like I would have liked to have watched it. Obviously, I was getting ready, but the game just looked, like, boy, are these guys really as good as, the USC, Ohio State, Michigan? And there was a lot of questions. But as I tried to say in the broadcast, that courageous finish by Max Duggan, I think that sold it. And more, I think it was the right decision.
Couldn't agree more. What's the best thing that Georgia brings to the table, and what's the worst thing Georgia brings to the table?
Well, they've been, I guess, it is interesting to have an undefeated football team, and then they've had 2 or 3 games. I guess it's normal when you go through a long, as you say, the SEC is not easy to play. I mean, 6 teams in the top 25, and then and that doesn't even count Texas A&M at the beginning. It was picked, 6th or something like that. It was an amazing league to think that you win the championship and you think about, man, you didn't look good in a couple games, I guess. It's tough to really put a finger on it, Mark, but I would assume they just haven't played many elite passing teams or quarterbacks. And what could happen if they face a team that's balanced? They really haven't faced, like even a J.J. McCarthy or an Ohio State team that can throw the ball. Or if they would have faced Caleb Williams, could they score enough points against those games? And then they roll it up against really an undermanned LSU team. If you really watched that game closely, you really understood what Brian Kelly did this year. I mean, we were there, you can't see it on TV, but Georgia would substitute, and LSU would look over. There was no one else, Mark, to put in the game. I mean, they were done. They were finished by the end of the year, the whole season. So the only thing I can say is they haven't this year, because of their schedule, faced the elite quarterback. I guess that's what I have to put my finger on.
Getting back to something we were talking about, how do you think it's going to be received? Because what took place this year in the Big Ten could certainly take place again here before this decade is out when they eliminate the
Right.
divisions. The two best teams in the league historically are Ohio State and Michigan. And, something that I guess is possible in the SEC going forward, if they eliminate divisions, maybe Alabama and Auburn could meet after Thanksgiving and theoretically meet again the next week. I mean, that might have happened again in 2013, when they faced one another and the kick six happened.
I've been talking about this for about a month. I even talked to athletic directors. When I interview coaches, I've asked about it. No one has a clue. No, I promise you, they all obviously are worried about their own job and what they're trying to do and their own team. When you go big picture and ask them, what will happen, in this scenario that, like just a perfect example this year, what if Tennessee had to play Georgia and Alabama got to stay at home and made the playoffs? People have not thought this out yet. And until it happens, I guess, they'll have to retool it again. But talk shows have talked about it more than the coaches or the commissioners or the athletic directors. I can promise you that. They just haven't really played their hand out yet. I don't have an answer for it. The way it's currently constructed, as Mark had pointed out, it's big money, and they're trying to not, to handle the money and the TV and fairness all at the same point. It's not an easy answer.
And it was easy when there was two sides to all these divisions. I mean, whatever you wanted to name the Big Ten and the SEC, it's very simple. Your side plays my side at the end of the day. But we're going to eliminate that. This is going to make it a lot more difficult. And I know you start adding USC and UCLA to the Big Ten. It could, it's going to bring USC into that mix. But Gary, you keep saying it. These are consequences that they've not talked about. And it seems that they've put this together for money and have neglected the details, and we'll have to, I think you said it 3 or 4 times, well, we'll just have to keep tweaking the system, won't we?
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's college football, isn't it? I mean, it's been going on since 1966 when Notre Dame and Michigan State tied. I mean, this is what it is. It's an opinion business, and it's like, when you voice an opinion, it's like touching the third rail. I mean, people don't like to hear other people's opinions. And it's fun, but it's maddening, especially if you're one of those teams that gets left out. It's always fun to talk about, unless you're on that team that gets left out, then it's not much fun.
Quickly here, we got a couple minutes. So Deion gets the Colorado job. You broadcasted many a terrific Colorado team when they were in the Big 8 and winning the Big 8. I know a lot's changed in a generation, but just the thought of, Deion and Colorado and bringing back a program that used to a generation ago compete for the national championship.
Well, I think if things go the way I believe they will go, that there's going to be more expansion in both the SEC and the Big Ten, that Colorado could be a lifesaver and Deion could be a lifesaver for the Big 12. That them, BYU, Arizona, and Arizona State, and if Colorado could get back to being one of their bell cow teams, and the way he could, Colorado has always recruited California and LA really, really well. It's a short trip and a nice place to go, a great atmosphere. Colorado could be a key player for the Big 12 going in the future if, Deion does what he might be able to do. I mean, this is really a fascinating thing. Deion, I think, in a way, paid his dues. He went and just didn't, jump off of talking and TV and got a head coaching job. He went there and did it the right way and coached a few years. This is going to be a fascinating look.
Gary Danielson getting ready for his 14th Army-Navy broadcast this Saturday afternoon. It'll be the 10th time he does the game in Philadelphia. Brad Nessler, Jenny Dell will join him Saturday at 3 o'clock. Gary, thanks for making time for us all year. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Gary Danielson joining us once again here on Miller and Moulton. And yes, they're in the Pac-12 now, but remember at the beginning, he prefaced it by saying if there's another wave of movement, he expects say Colorado and Utah, which have been linked, that they might go back, go Big 12-ish. I wonder if Dion helped save the Pac-12.
Well, I don't think he can save the Pac-12 because if Oregon and Washington go, I'm with you that will lose what it needs to maintain. I don't think bringing in a San Diego State, a Fresno State, or whatever the case may be would save that conference at that point. Miller and Moulton, we thank you so much for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around and get it.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
David, I went to that birthday party I told you about, Saturday. The guy at the club there had a 70th birthday. They had a tray of shrimp cocktail that I felt badly. There was so many, because I don't think people wanted to be pigs and eat.
But
I should have had you there as my guest.
oh, we would have killed it. Well, I would have looked around and been like, really? You're being polite? Well, okay, somebody's going to be a clown. That's me.
Tenderloin sliders shrimp cocktail, David.
Oh, my God, I'd still be there. If I had to remove me with a backhoe.
It was funnier than hell, though, because I'm the young guy there. A few of the guys there going, I ain't spending this kind of money when I turn 70.
See, and I'd look at it like that guy. I got to 70.
That's what it was. It was a hell of a party. I mean, he dropped probably a couple K on that thing.
Mark, would you sign up for 7-day right now? I don't mean as the end game. I just mean to get there. I would.
I've not had
13 more years.
I've not had the scares you've had. So I plan on, I don't have any like expectations of not getting there. So,
right.
Your shoulder okay there?
No, I don't know what's going on. My right shoulder's a little sore this morning. I must have slept on it or something. But it's cracking. So,
Seattle?
Oh,
Seattle?
yeah, cracking. Right. No, not that good. They're playing well.
Oh. That's pretty good.
Adam, I don't know if Deion ever goes to the NFL, because I do think part of Deion's allure is Deion knows that Deion can get players in the NFL, you know, and that ain't going to mean crap. And he won't be the one picking the players. I think, Adam, that what Deion does, if Deion goes to Colorado and in 3 years makes him an 8+ win team, I think it lines him up to replace Norvell at Florida State whenever that time comes. Because if Norvell wins the ACC here, he's going to get offered a better job. Now, if I was him, I wouldn't leave. Once you get Florida State rolling, I'd stay. But, you know, Florida State's not going to throw around the money for coaches that SEC schools will.
What are you doing?
We don't have a guest.
We don't have a guest here.
I go, Steve, wait, I called you way too early. And he goes, no, that's what I thought. That's fine. My bad. 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Good thing he's up.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Just like that, it is the 8 o'clock hour of Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Monday Night Football tonight. It's why I'm in Tampa. Bucks hosting the Saints. Brady and company a 3.5-point favorite. Over-under's 41, Mark. So, 22-19, something along those lines.
Sounds riveting.
You'd have to admit, though, these two teams genuinely dislike one another. They really would sign up to play for free in a parking lot. I mean, and there are not a ton of NFL rivalries like that.
Tampa's done a good job in their division to really have three rivals, really and truly, because Carolina and Tampa is a nasty little rivalry. It has been for a while. Atlanta and New Orleans had always been the rivals. But because here in the last couple of years with Tampa getting good and kind of taking over from New Orleans and battling the Saints, there's a little something there. And Atlanta just hates Brady, so they have a little something there. But you are right that this is a genuine rivalry in the National Football League, of which there are not a lot of those left.
Right. Now, it used to be back in the day, but now, honestly, like, would the Steelers and Ravens play for free in the parking lot? I think they would. It's not what it was 10 years ago, but I still think those two teams would play each other for free in the parking lot. Is there an AFC West rivalry where you think they'd play for free?
Maybe, believe it or not, maybe the Raiders and the Chiefs.
Okay. I hear you. That goes back a long time.
It really does. That's with ownership. The two families still own the teams. So it's generational in ownership. So I do think that Chiefs Raiders has that same appeal, David.
When Marty Schottenheimer was the coach of the Chiefs, he wore beating the Raiders as a badge of honor. He hated them. Everything about them. Good season, mediocre season, bad season, didn't matter. 2 games meant more than all the rest. It's when they played the Raiders.
And obviously Packers-Bears still means that.
Absolutely. You heard Pat Kerwin on our show on Friday. His brother's a Bears fan, and he's like, yeah, I'd take beating the Packers over winning the Super Bowl. Now, that's just Pat blank crazy, but Pat's brother's serious about it, apparently.
Well, I don't know. I was talking to Pat when I went out the game. Pat was pretty adamant that Fields needed to play that game, that he and Jim had talked about it, and that it was important for Fields to play that game, even though he was hurt, that the Packer game just means more. Even if it was just handing off the ball, obviously he was healthy enough. He had a long run in the game. They had a little bit of a lead going for a while before doing what they always do against Green Bay.
Yeah, they led by 9 going to the fourth quarter, man. I'll tell you, Aaron Rodgers. Did you hear what he said after the game? Yeah, they felt pretty good up 9 going to the fourth quarter. But so did I. Unbelievable. Really? Do you have to just another right hand over the top?
What does he have left this year to do?
Well, I will say the Packers' schedule the rest of the way is very favorable. They only have 4 games left. They don't play again. They've got a bye coming up. They don't play again till Monday Night Football on the 19th at home against the Rams. Well, that's a win. Now they're 6-8. Honestly, Mark, if they go to Miami on Christmas Day and beat the Dolphins, which right now they're not expected to do, but you could see them running the table. That might be the only game they're an underdog in the rest of the year.
Home for the Vikings and Lions to finish. They'll be slight underdog against the Vikings, or it'll be
okay.
But I know what you're getting at, David.
Right. Just like it's tough for Green Bay to win in the Dome, it's been harder for the Vikings to win at Lambeau. And the Vikings will have the division clinched by then. And I don't know if they can catch the Eagles because they lost to them head-to-head. So I know that's being overly optimistic for a team that's 5-8, but we still think that there's some semblance of a pretty good team there. They just lost it. And so what if they're finding it again? Now, I don't think 9-8 will get them in, though, unfortunately. Like, they already have a loss to the Giants, although the Giants tie means they probably won't end up tied with them. Conference record, it'll be tough to get better and see it. Packers don't win a lot of tiebreakers, is what I'm getting at. So even if they end up tied with Seattle at 9-8, it's going to be difficult to win that tiebreaker.
Yeah, they're 4-5 in the conference right now. They're 2-2 in the division.
But Rodgers has said he's going to play for as long as they're mathematically alive, which basically is I'm going to play till we lose a game, and then we'll talk about life and the pursuit of happiness going forward.
And it looked heading into the fourth quarter as if that talk was going to be sooner than later. But the Packers rally to beat the Bears because, well, that's what they do.
So the Bears have lost 6 in a row. And can we do this, if the draft were today deal?
Oh, yeah. My favorite site, Tankathon.
My favorite part about this is that 3 of the top 6 picks are not owned by the teams that are picking. That's what I love.
That is correct. Right now, Houston with the first overall pick, Chicago with pick number 2. Then Denver owns the 3rd pick, but that's Seattle's pick.
Right, Russell Wilson.
The Rams have the 4th pick. That's Detroit's pick.
Now, the Rams, listen, for all the people who have said to us whenever we bring this up, oh, yeah, look at the Rams. They won the Super Bowl. They would do this trade all over again. Every time, by the way, not 99 times out of 100. They would do it 100 times. They won the Super Bowl.
That is the
So-
object, by the way, isn't it, David? Isn't
I
that
mean-
the objective?
We used to ask this question back in the day. Would you rather be the Marlins or would you rather be the Braves? And up until 2 years ago, the Braves went that long stretch where they didn't win the final game of the year. But they were good almost every year. Made the playoffs damn near every year. Marlins made the playoffs twice. When we used to ask the question. They had made the playoffs twice. They won it both times. Who would you rather be? So anyway, yes, Detroit, Mark, is going to draft very highly because the Rams are going to win many games the rest of the year. Right now, they'd pick fourth.
No, and in fact, they're just a half game behind Chicago for that second pick because of the buys and what have you. Both Denver and the Rams 3-9, the Bears are 3-10. Then Carolina's with a group of teams at 4-8 that include New Orleans, Jacksonville, and Arizona. But New Orleans has already given that pick to Philadelphia.
Yes.
That's pick 6 right now.
It's a draft day trade to trade up and get Olave. Yeah, gave up this year's number 1 pick. That's right. So the Eagles, who are the best record in the league, also own the 6th pick of the draft.
There's never been a better time.
That's on me. Don't know how the Tankathon site that started playing a commercial all of a sudden, but that's what happened. That's my go-to site for the draft order, tankathon.com. You want to see who really thinks, that's where you go.
So right now, by the way, Detroit would pick 4th and 15th. Houston would pick 1st and 13th. Seattle would pick, 3rd and 20th. And remember, Dolphins had their first-round picks taken away from them by the league for tampering. So there's only 31 first-round picks this year. So that's where we are. Miller and Moulton. Hey, can I fast forward? And I know it's a subject that only interests a few people, but I'm kind of quirky this way. So, I'm in Tampa today. They have an 11:30 press conference, Mark, a little over 3 hours now. It's open to the public. Anybody can attend. Well, you know me. And
one way to bolster attendance for a presser. They serving lunch?
I would guess 11:30. I mean, come on, you got to be serving food, right? At least beverages. Right. So, South Florida's announcing their new football coach.
Right.
Alex Golesh. Golesh. He's the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. Of course, we all know Josh Heupel's calling the plays, but anyway, he's the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. He's a finalist for the Broyles Award, which is the top assistant coach in college football. So, and he's known as a world-class recruiter. 2 years ago, he was at UCF for a year, which was buried, by the way, in the South Florida press conference. I love that. They talked about his glowing tenure at Iowa State, all right, and his tenure at Tennessee and what have you, and literally 12 paragraphs down. By the way, he did spend 1 year in Florida. It was at UCF. Moving on. I love rivals. Even in press releases, we got to just... But, Mark, here's what bothers me. Okay, it's one thing Deion taking Colorado over South Florida. But the Coastal Carolina guy, Jamie Chadwell, took Liberty over South Florida. If you're a South Florida supporter, doesn't that have to concern you?
I would just ask, do you have any idea what the money is for two? Because I would think Liberty would outspend anybody to get a coach. And that had to be a part of it, David.
But if you're Chadwell, it's a big career move. You chose Conference USA over the AAC. And Liberty, because of the baggage that the school brings, is not a lock to ever do better than Conference USA, by the way.
It's not. But the last Liberty coach, and I know it was Hugh Freeze, and he had been places, and he got the Auburn job. I think this guy's thinking, I can win here. I know I'm going to be good there. I'm not going to be there for more than 2 or 3 years, and I'm moving on to a Power 5 job next. And there's no way going to the death nail that is South Florida that you could expect to be at a Power 5 job in 3 years going to this school because it's a grease fire.
And so for you, is that why this doesn't concern you?
Yes.
Because like Bud Elliott on one of his podcasts over the weekend says, Chadwell's looking at this like, I'm going to crush CUSA. Just crush it. I'm going to win this league every year here. And it's true. And, even though South Florida should be at the top end of the AAC when you think about it, it's going to take a little while.
So to me, it was money and winning.
Okay.
Both I can do immediately at Liberty. I'm not getting the money at South Florida, and I'm not going to win. I mean, you're not going to win next year here. I don't care who you are. It's not attractive from a portal standpoint. There's no NIL to speak of.
Okay. It concerns me that South Florida lost out to Liberty concerns me. Alex Golesh, the new football coach at USF. Hey, the Rays may have a new stadium in St. Pete. We'll talk to Steve Carney next.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
It was 64 in this room when I walked in yesterday. I left it there all through the night. Unbelievable sleeping weather. Trenton, what was I supposed to stream on my phone? Yeah, KW, a whole bunch of NFL teams with background checks on Harbaugh, with all due respect, that's crap. What background checks do you need to do? Like, is Jim Harbaugh a mystery? Come on, everybody knows what the deal is with Jim Harbaugh. He's unbelievably intense. He's borderline bipolar, but he's a great coach, and he'll win for you. He's just a handful. Do you want him? Yes or no? I mean, come on. Background on Jim Harbaugh. What a bunch of crap.
Look just stay at Michigan, Jim.
He basically came out yesterday and said that.
I know.
Would you rather Michigan, Ohio State play in the semifinal or risk them having to both win and play in the final?
Well, with 4, they would have never put them against one another. Like, I think there was never a chance of Ohio State being 3.
I mean, them and TCU are both 11-1.
I understand that. What I'm telling you is that there was never a chance that they were going to put a rematch in the semifinal.
Well, TCU is 12-1. And also, Felipe, I agree with Mark. I think if they had taken Alabama, they would have found a way to leapfrog Bama over Ohio State.
Bingo.
Honestly. And Corrigan would have got up there and done some tap dance about, well, we told you last week there was a chance of Alabama leapfrogging Ohio State, and we just looked at the games that were played, and ultimately came down to that the SEC had 6 top 25 teams, the Big Ten had 3. So blah, blah, blah.
I mean, if they rematch in the final, that has the potential to be the most watched college football.
No, we don't like rematches.
But it's the best rivalry.
We don't like rematches. Not in college football.
Felipe, here's, I think, the dirty little secret. The conference commissioners would have complained bitterly publicly if Georgia had been matched up with Bama and Ohio State had been matched up with Michigan. And privately, the conference commissioners would have been like, yes, we're going to get a team in the final. Yes.
But you listen to Gary. I think Gary gives Ohio State a decent chance against Georgia because they can throw it.
Well, I don't know how they're going to stop them. But yes, that could be a pretty high-scoring game.
Steve's on hold. We're back in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes after the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. We'll get back to all things football in a moment. Going to take 9 minutes to talk about something that took place over the last 72 hours that most people probably didn't pay attention to. But the Rays put forward a bunch of stadium proposals. Not in Tampa, in St. Pete. Steve Carney covers the Rays for stpete9.com, stpete9.com. He also hosts the Under the Orange Roof podcast. Follow Steve on Twitter, Steve Carney, Carney. Steve, it's David and Mark once again. Thanks for waking up with us. Okay, let's get, what the heck's going on here? Now it's St. Pete? What are they doing?
Well, there's a really good explanation for it, guys. And the fact is that the city of St. Petersburg is going to redevelop the Tropicana Field site. That had always been the plan, that there was going to be something new on that site come 2027. That was the plan all along, and the Rays have a vested interest in it because they get 50% of the money for redevelopment. So this was going to happen whether the team had decided they were going to to be a redevelopment. Now, what's happened is that the Rays have submitted a plan to have a new stadium on the Tropicana Field site. This does not preclude them from having a proposal for a site to play in Tampa as well. But unfortunately, the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County have not put forth a site for that would be feasible to play baseball full time. And while the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County have talked a good game, that's all it's been. It's been talk. And the city of St. Pete and Pinellas County, who the team has been in bed with since 1998, have come out with they requested a proposal for the site. They submitted a proposal. It's one of 4 that are going to be put up for public debate coming up in January.
And all 4 of these are in St. Pete, correct?
Yes, only one of the proposals is from the Rays. Rays and Hines, which is a real estate development and property management company. They're one of the 4 proposals. There are 3 other proposals from 3 other places that are not involved with the Rays that will also be put up for public debate coming up in January.
So let me get this straight. So we're going to have a public debate in January. They're going to pick one of the 4 plans, but only one of the 4 plans involves a stadium for the Rays, correct?
Only one of the 4 plans. I have not seen the other 3 that have been announced, but only one of the 4 was done in collaboration with the team.
Is there any talks being made of something from Tampa coming in with the team as well? Because as you said, it doesn't preclude the team from trying to do something in Tampa. Will there be another proposal in your estimation anytime soon that would have something in Tampa? Or like you said, is that just talk right now?
Right now, there is no sign that the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County have something, have a site that is feasible for baseball, and nothing, especially the size of the Tropicana Field site. I mean, you think about it, the site of Tropicana Field is, I think it's 3 times larger than the Ybor City site that was put forth in 2017. So that just shows you how big a big land parcel this is. I mean, we're not just talking about a stadium, but they put in this proposal, they're talking about a number of residential sites, retail. You're looking at another 2,500 person entertainment venue that would also be on the Tropicana Field site. There is a lot that is going to go on in this 86 acres that is more than just a ballpark.
Talking with Steve Carney, stpete9.com, stpete9.com. He also does an Under the Orange Roof podcast covering the Rays. Follow Steve on Twitter, Steve Carney, Carney. Steve, does St. Pete want the Rays? I mean, do the folks in St. Pete want the team in the stadium to be the centerpiece of the shopping and the homes and all that, or would they rather the team get out of the way?
That's a good question. I think that's what's going to be discovered when we have these public debates in January. I think that the politicians would certainly love to have the Rays be the centerpiece of that Tropicana Field site in 2027 and moving forward. So I think that we're going to get a very, very clear view of how the voting base here in St. Petersburg is feeling about the possibility of having the Rays staying in town for another 30 plus seasons. Because I would figure that if they pick the Rays proposal and they're going to build this new ballpark, it's going to be another long-term use agreement, much like what the team and the city did for Tropicana Field in the late 90s.
Who's paying for this, Steve? I mean, ultimately, is there state money involved? How do they think they're going to finance this? Because that seems to me that's the one block that always comes up with these stadium deals.
Well, the big thing that's going to end up paying for a lot of this is going to be the hotel bed tax, which was due to sunset in 2027. They would have it continue on through throughout for the next, say, 30 years, they would just extend that bed tax. That's going to be the big piece of the financing that would be coming from the government. There's going to be a lot less public money that needs to be added for a ballpark in St. Petersburg, as opposed to if they were going to try and build a ballpark in Tampa. I can only imagine how much new money would have to be generated in order to pay for it from a government and a public money standard.
Steve, let's just say that the plan gets, chosen and the Rays are going to get a new stadium on that site. Steve, for 25 years, financially, it hasn't consistently worked. Okay. I mean, that's a generation in which it's been proven that the folks to the north won't drive over the bridge to go to the south. I'm just trying to see how long-term for the franchise is this a good thing?
I don't know if you could say it. I don't want to say that it's not a bad. It's a bad thing, but it's probably the best thing that the team's going to get right now. And there's no site in Tampa. If the folks in the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County would get off their rear ends and stop just talking and figure out where they're going to put this team and ask for a proposal, the Rays aren't stupid. They're going to have a proposal ready for you. The problem is that Tampa has talked and talked and talked, and they have not done any action. And as I said on social media to a number of Rays fans who have expressed the exact same questions that you guys have, you can't build a ballpark on a wish. You have to have a site. And right now, the only site that's being put forth by anybody in this region is that one.
He's Steve Carney, stpete9.com, the Under the Orange Roof podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Steve Carney, Carney. Steve, once again, on short notice, thanks so much for your time. We'll talk down the road.
Absolutely, guys. Look forward to it.
Steve Carney.
Kind enough to join us once again. Sorry, Mark.
No, I know that's usually yours. We'll run up on the break, so I kind of cut you off. Miller and Moulton. We'll switch gears and talk college football with Matt Baker. He's a Heisman voter and an AP voter. He's next on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Cincinnati's hiring the Louisville coach.
Satterfield?
Yep. Keep
That's-
telling him how much he sucks, and you're going to get the guy from Purdue, and he walks on you. That's fascinating.
Well, the funny thing is that the Louisville folks were talking about getting rid of Satterfield.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I said. They keep telling him they're going to get the Purdue guy. We're going to get the Purdue guy. We're going to get the Purdue. Fine, I'm leaving. Go get the Purdue guy.
Satterfield's like, fine, I'll leave the office spick and span for when he shows up.
That's what I mean. That's what I was saying.
We're going to show you the door. How about if I leave first? Kiss mine.
Matt has not sent his Heisman vote in yet, because he literally just had a list on Twitter of who his guys are.
Interesting.
He says, I know who 1 and 2 are. I don't know who I'm putting third. ESPN analytics must be set up for them to get more clicks, because right now the Cowboys, according to them, have a 50% chance to make the Super Bowl, and Philadelphia 30%.
Right.
Now, come on. Now, come on.
Shows you what they think of the Eagles.
Oh, by the way, I had my I have apnea as well, David. Waiting on my machine this week. So we can rename the show Sleep Apnea.
Well, let me tell you, you'll feel a lot better.
I'm excited.
The whole thing is comfort level. Like, if for whatever reason it fit really well for me. I just put the little nasal pillows, is what they call them, in, and for whatever reason it felt fine. I didn't feel weird at all. I hated the mask. Hated it. I don't know if I would do it. I hated the mask so much. But if you're, whatever it is, if you're comfortable with it, Mark, you will sleep so much better. It's amazing how much better you will feel.
I'm excited already.
Do you do the Darth Vader?
I don't have it yet. I literally was just diagnosed in the last 48 hours.
I was asking David, but
no, he does. He doesn't. So you just said.
There's a little thing that they're called nasal. It's just 2 air plugs up my nose.
Port Charlotte is out. The likelihood is Tropicana Field, from what I just read.
Yeah, they haven't announced where they're going to do spring training, but they're probably just going to bring it in-house. Yeah, they're still considering several options. Tropicana Field, the Disney complex in Orlando.
Baker's on hold. We're back in 15.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Fast-moving Monday show this first Monday of December. I'm in Tampa for Monday Night Football tonight. Brady and the Bucks hosting the Saints, who are 3.5-point favorites. Mark in the cozy confines of the 239. Matt Baker is kind enough to join us once again. He of the Tampa Bay Times. Follow Matt on Twitter at MBakerTBTimes, MBakerTBTimes. Matt, David, and Mark, once again, thanks for your time. How you been?
I'm hanging in there. I'm running on fumes at the moment, but we'll get through it, buddy.
Nothing like throwing in a coaching search at the end of a long season for you, right?
Yeah, this one was brutal just because, it made me actually appreciate the way the Billy Napier thing went down at Florida last year, because everybody knew within days he was the guy. It was just a matter of when. And with this one, it was drawn out for a while, and that's nobody's fault. It just takes time. And it was a month-long thing where it started with somebody saying something about John Gruden, which was never an option. And then you're tracing Deion Sanders and the Jamie Chadwell stuff. And, even as late as, Saturday during the games, I'm watching at my house and I'm hearing different names to the point where I wrote 1,000 words, just banged it out about a different candidate. And then suddenly it's Alex Goulash. And that's that. And having to scramble accordingly. So his introductory news conference is going to be later today at USF, and I look forward to kind of getting a little bit of time to get to know him and understand more about him and his philosophies and why the Bulls think he was the guy.
Well, they had two others in mind. They had Deion. They had the coach at Coastal Carolina. How close, in your estimation, were they with either, or was that never really that close?
So I don't think Deion was particularly close. I think he was interested. I don't think it was just, completely speculation. I do think some of the rumors going around about him flying here last week, I think that was probably not accurate. But I do think he had interest. It's just a matter of if he was going to go, it was going to be the Power Five. And, if some of the numbers out there are correct, Colorado is going to pay Deion about twice what USF paid Jeff Scott. Okay, well, that's a pretty big deal. And more importantly, I think for Deion is this coaching salary pool for his assistants and the other staff. Jamie Chadwell, I think they were probably closer for a while. I mean, of the name I heard on day one, and I thought they were going to be able to get him. I think what happened though is the Liberty job opened, and it wasn't a shock that it opened when Hugh Freeze left for Auburn, but there was a lot of uncertainty about whether it would. And then that became a really good fit for him. Liberty is a religious school. He's a religious man. And let's face it, Liberty is one of the wealthiest G5 programs in the country. ESPN reported that Jamie Chadwell is going to make about $4 million a year at Liberty. And again, I haven't seen the financial terms for Alex yet at USF, but Jeff Scott made $2.4 million. So there's a pretty big difference there. And I don't think that necessarily says anything bad about USF. It just says for those two candidates, there were two other jobs that fit them better.
My concern with hiring, Alex, Goulash, however he pronounces his last name, sorry for getting it wrong if I did, is he's never been a head coach before. Matt, this is a bit of a mess right now. I think they need somebody who's done this before. I mean, doesn't Alex look on paper like the last guy they hired?
You are not the first person to say that. You will not be the last person to say that. And not to give away what's my plan for the day, but my plan for the day is to figure out why he is not Jeff Scott 2.0. Because on paper, they are very, very similar. There are some differences for sure. Alex, I guess there's questions about how much of the play calling he did do at Tennessee, but Tennessee says on his bio that he was the play caller. So let's take them at their word there. Jeff had some input on plays when he was at Clemson, but wasn't the primary play caller. So that's one difference for sure. I think the fact that Alex has been around different places, different rebuilding jobs, Toledo, Iowa State, Tennessee, that kind of speaks highly to him understanding what he's getting into because he has experience doing this, not in the head coaching job, but in a different role. So those are kind of some of the differences. And the other thing I would point out too is I remember being in this situation a couple of years ago where Mike Norvell got hired at Florida State after doing really well for a few years in the American. And some fans were saying, well, we just hired Willie Taggart 2.0. And that was the story I wrote from that introductory press conference. And I've had a few people saying why he is not Willie Taggart 2.0. Well, 3 years later, they're top 15 in the country, 9-3, legitimate chance at winning 10 games. Nobody's saying he's Willie Taggart 2.0. So I understand. I don't know how this is going to work out with Alex. I really don't. But I'm just saying, let's wait a little bit.
Right.
Matt, this program, USF, with everybody departing for the Big 12, I think should be one of the top 2 or 3 programs in that conference every year. Do you?
Yeah, there's no reason why not. I mean, they're not the richest and wealthiest mid-major in the country, but they're going to be in that conversation because they've been doing this for a while. You look at the recruiting footprint in Tampa. You look at the indoor facility that will formally open here in the next couple of weeks. You look at them moving toward building an on-campus stadium, the new locker room. Again, where they are, talent-rich area, and one of the 4 biggest states in the country in terms of recruiting. There's no reason why they should not be one of the best. And they've got a head start on UTSA and North Texas and Charlotte and some of those guys. So yeah, I don't know why they should not be at the top just about every year in this new look AAC. It's just a matter of, at this point, obviously there's going to be a lot of roster turnover. You got a guy who's going to be learning on the job, and he's got a lot to learn very fast. But as we go forward, I think that was one of the most attractive parts about the USF job is the playoff expanding here in a couple of years. AAC is probably going to be, one of the top 7 conferences every year. Them in the Mountain West are kind of vying for 6. You win the American, which you should do, and this new look American at USF, you're going to be in the playoff conversation.
And Tulane, if we had a 12-team playoff this year, Tulane would have been the 6th conference champion represented. They would have played Alabama in a first-round game. In theory, 2 years from now, that could be South Florida. He's Matt Baker. He covers college football for the Tampa Bay Times. Follow him on Twitter, MBakerTBTimes, MBakerTBTimes. You're an AP voter. You're a Heisman voter. Have you made your Heisman vote yet?
I have not. My weekend was a little busy. But so, and usually I'd like to spend the Monday after everything just to kind of come up with a list. And I've got my short list in front of me. It's a lot of the guys you would expect. I have Jordan Travis on my short list. Brock Bowers is a name that I don't know how many short lists he would make. Tennessee guys, Michael Penix, who's from Tampa, at Washington. Again, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Those guys. I feel, I can't share. Well, first of all, I haven't voted yet. Secondly, I can't share who I vote for until afterwards. I will say I feel pretty good, having not done my deep dive yet. I feel pretty good about 1 and 2. I don't know who's 3rd. I don't. This is a legitimate thing where I'm going to look at a bunch of guys and try and come up with something because 1 and 2 I feel pretty confident in, but there's not a clear-cut number 3 in my mind this year.
Matt, how many deep dives do you take over the course of the year? Or do you just try to keep a list as it goes on? Because I think people are curious for Heisman voters, how your process of choosing this goes.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot during the year because, this is a cool responsibility, right? Like, yes. Heisman Trophy is a big deal. Like, even before I was in this role, I think I might have shared this story on the show before, but I got married in 2011 on the day the Heisman Trophy went to Robert Griffin III. And my groom's cake at my wedding was the Heisman Trophy. So, like, this is a big deal for me, and I take it very seriously. So I say that because I'm not necessarily diving into the numbers in October or whatever, but if there's a Friday night game between USC and Utah, whatever the case may be, I will pay more attention to that. And, okay, Caleb Williams is going to be in the Heisman conversation. I need to make sure that I see him as much as possible. This is a chance, no other game. Let's get a good gauge on this guy. Brock Bowers at Georgia, that all that type of stuff. I'm paying attention to. Although, again, I don't really make my decision until until today by 5:00. Otherwise, they yell at me.
Wow, make sure you get it in. You got that presser at 11:30. Just make sure you get the ballot in. Okay.
they've already sent me like an email reminder and I think 2 text messages reminders. And typically they call by like noon on Monday if it's not in. Like, yes, I'm working on it. I'm a reporter. I know how deadlines work.
You're also an AP voter, as we mentioned. Just curious, your top 5, if you will, 1 through 5 was
Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State. I had USC 5, although I understand I was probably higher on them than others, just because of the way that game played out with Caleb Williams being banged up in a shell of himself at the end. And the one loss earlier this year was to Utah, just barely. When you kind of compare USC and Bama head to head, you start looking at who they actually beat and who they kind of were unimpressive against. USC's resume, in my mind, stacks up pretty well, all things considered. So that was my top 5. Top 4, I thought would be kind of hard, but no, Ohio State was an easy 4 when you really look at the numbers.
How much of a shot do you give Ohio State against Georgia?
I give them a legit chance. I think they played extremely tight against Michigan. So they're better than the way that they played. And, when you've got an elite quarterback like CJ Stroud and you got dudes like Marvin Harrison and we'll see if they get how healthy Henderson is and some of those guys. I think they've got a chance. I just think Georgia's so much better than everybody else this year. Georgia's going to win the national title, but Ohio State will have a chance.
Let's give UCF a win in the Military Bowl against Duke, although Duke's a salty team and, they could easily win that game. But for argument's sake, UCF wins. They go 10-4 this year. They lose the conference championship game. How do we grade this season? Because I get the sense, Matt, that most UCF fans would only give a 10-win season a C+.
Well, then they're crazy, right? Let's be honest. I don't think you're wrong. But most programs, look, they're not at the Alabama level, right? Where you win 10 games and everybody's ticked off. They're not there. There's only Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia at this point. That's it. That's your list of people that should be upset with a 10-win season, in my eyes. Then for almost everybody else, if you're having kind of a down year and you win 10 games, that's a good thing, right? Like when Florida State wasn't quite clicking under Jimbo there at the end, they could hang their hat on the fact that they were still winning double-digit games and going to a nice bowl. So I don't see that as a disappointment at all, especially when you look at just the way some of them went down, where a close loss to Navy. Louisville wasn't terrible when you lose that one. Look, 10-win season is still a big deal. 10 wins and the way it all shakes out, they might be able to sneak into the top 25 still. For UCF, you should take that.
Will Dion ever win double-digit games at Colorado?
I don't think so. He did a fantastic job at Jackson State, and Colorado was absolutely right to hire him, and USF would have been absolutely right to hire him if they could have made that work too. No question. But I still have questions. He was able to get a bunch of really good players at Jackson State, and when you do that, you have more talent than everybody else. Yeah, you're going to destroy everybody at that level. When you get to the Pac, not just the FBS level, but the Power 5, having the dudes matters a lot. But you also have to develop them, and you have to put them in the right position. And I don't know that Dion can do that. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that the couple years at Jackson State does not give me enough of a sample size to feel confident that he's going to be able to out-scheme people, right? And that he's going to, when the talent gap isn't enormous, because at Colorado it won't be when they're going up against Oregon and Washington. I don't know that he's going to be able to, he and his staff will develop and scheme around it enough to make up when they don't have much, much better guys than the other team. So yeah, I don't know about double digits, but I think it was a great hire for Colorado, because what are they going to do? Go 1-11 again? All right, well, at least you shot your shot.
He's Matt Baker, covers college football. Tampa Bay Times. Follow him on Twitter at @MBakerTBTimes. Matt, another busy day ahead of you today. Good luck, and hopefully we'll talk down the road.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Matt Baker, who's been kind enough to join us about every other week on average throughout the season. Great insight, good reporter, very fair and balanced.
Very fair. Does a good job. I like Matt, and his top 4 looking just like the playoff top 4 And he has a lot of the same questions we do about the hire in Tampa.
Don't you think most UCF fans, though, are looking at this season as like a C plus B minus?
Yes.
After they lost to Tulane. If they had beaten Tulane, they would have looked at it as a B plus type season. But now that they lost to Tulane and not ranked, and they're like, this was supposed to be our year.
And they can still win 10.
Right.
I give the fan base credit for being ticked off that their expectations are that high now. They're crazy, but they are getting their expectations at a level of, well, being a high-end college football team. Miller and Moulton, we thank you for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around and get it.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost clubhead speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Nick Bollettieri passed away.
Did he really?
91.
Sarasota Bradenton, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Bolletary 30 for 30?
I did not.
It was interesting. Went into his relationship with Agassi, and I found it interesting.
I think, all of those for me there's not one of those that I don't find at least that I can't get something out of. That's why that whole Phi Slamma Jamma thing was cool. I did not know all those kids were Houston kids. With the exception, I did not know the Olajuwon story, that he landed in New York, St. John's didn't meet him. He walked out to the front of the airport at JFK. It's freezing. Before he goes back in, he sees another Nigerian, puts the 3 plane tickets in front of him of where he was, Providence, Houston, and wherever the other one was, and says, which one of these climates is most like Nigeria? And the guy says, Houston. He flew to Houston. And Guy Lewis, the coach, sent 2 of his players to get Hakeem and said, if he's 6'7", don't bother picking him up, because he was told it was a 7-footer. And he's on the phone with the coach. And he goes, no, coach, he's a 7-footer.
Bolletary was not Sampras. He was Courier. And what caused the rift, Courier thought that Bolletary was favoring Agassi over him. And so Courier left.
15 seconds. Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Just like that, it's the bonus hour on this first Monday of December. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Obviously, after a huge weekend in a number of sports. I mean, think about it. It was Saturday, 10 a.m. that the U.S. men's national team was taking on the Netherlands in the World Cup. 13 million, by the way, is what Fox said they had. For some perspective, they said they had 17 million for Michigan, Ohio State. So, it's...
And if we wouldn't have given up a goal early, who knows what that audience could have grown to. I mean, it would have gotten bigger if we were in the game. We weren't really ever in the game.
No, had a chance to bury a couple in the first half, and clearly we don't have finishers.
If you looked at the stat sheet, that's how it would read. But none of those chances were good chances. They were a knee into the goal crease. I didn't think Pulisic's chance was that good of a chance. Not like what the Netherlands, they had chances. You know what? They bury them. They were good chances. They were guys getting the balls in open spots where you score goals. There was such a difference of the way they cross. Because when you looked at the numbers, the crosses were the same. The number of shots on goal were the same. No, they weren't. I've watched hockey my whole life. I have perspective in that game. There are some games in which a team outshoots the other team, and it's just a bunch of perimeter shots, and they're not good shots. That's what we are. We're not good yet. Now, I have all the positivity going forward in 4 years that this young team can continue to improve because they were the second youngest team in the tournament. But we were outclassed against the Netherlands, and it wasn't close.
Also, and granted, we both admit that our soccer knowledge is far more limited than it is on other sports. But from those that cover soccer, some of the things that they said was in the construction of the team, I think we only had 3, forwards, if you will. We had a bunch of midfielders, bunch of defense, but we lack the guy at the head of the sphere, so to speak. We lack the finishers. And so, will some of these guys develop into them 4 years from now, or is that guy playing high school, college, in a developmental league somewhere, and that's who's going to be at the front of our team in 4 years from now?
The one thing that we lack also that you notice when you play a team like the Netherlands is size.
Yes.
We're still a small team comparatively to the rest of the world. There aren't 6'4" guys that can 6'5" guys. Their goaltender was 6'8" or something like that. We don't have that guy that can go up and head the ball in that's just going to be bigger and taller and stronger than the rest. We don't have those players. And David, I don't know if we ever will.
Well, and this has been talked about many times, so we're not breaking any ground here. But Mark, you talk all the time about ranking where the MLS is in terms of soccer leagues. Well, in this country, in terms of the athletes that make up this country, what number athlete goes and plays soccer? So that you ask it the
great question.
And that's part of why this is always going to be difficult for us, because soccer is a much bigger deal in all the other countries. They're getting their top 2 athletes, if you will. They're either playing soccer or one other sport. That's it. We're getting what? The 5th to 8th best athlete to play soccer?
That's a great question going forward. What are we getting? Because football and basketball are 1 and 2.
Right.
David, I don't know. I mean, I'm at the youth fields all the time. Mm-hmm. There are far more kids, at least at the fields that I go to, playing soccer than there are playing baseball.
Okay.
And it's not close.
Okay. Now, but let me ask you, when you just by your looking, all right, when you see the quality of the athlete, and these are our lead athletes here in the World Cup, all right, our elite soccer players and athletes, and you look at a Mike Trout, and the athlete that is on the baseball field, I would argue that, listen, let's be honest. We need an Aaron Judge on the U.S. men's national team. We need a big dude.
And I think we're getting closer to the 4th best. Can we start getting the 3rd?
Well, when we do, then we're going to be a country to be reckoned with. We'll be a top 10 country in the world. If we can get our 3rd best athletes to put soccer, that's what we go: football, basketball, soccer. In terms of what our athletes decide they want to play, we'll be a top 10 soccer nation in the world.
And there's Miller and Moulton's World Cup coverage for today, December the 5th.
By the way, it's Japan and Croatia, Brazil and South Korea today. Winners will play each other in the quarterfinals. If you missed yesterday, France and England both won. They'll play in the quarters. The quarters is where England's World Cup hopes always go to die. And so sure enough, who are they playing? The defending champions from France in the quarters. Harry Kane scored yesterday in their 3-0 win. So there you have it. Dolphins did not look good yesterday. Now granted, you're missing both of your starting tackles against the Niners pass rush. You could not look good, but Tua didn't look good. Okay.
No, he looked a little intimidated. He looked as if they were in his head. Looked as if Bosa was in his head, and he was, because he was there in the backfield really early and often.
Yep. Sacked him 3 times. And we said the Dolphins were now they played losing teams during that 5-game winning streak. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat. And we said, okay, now you're going to start playing some 500 or above teams. Let's see what you got. Well, they didn't respond all that well to the first test, San Francisco, which was not a good matchup for them. All right, now they're going to play the Chargers. Much better matchup. Can they beat them? Then they're going to have a bad matchup. Orchard Park, mid-December. Maybe the best team in the AFC. Oh, boy. Still have at New England. Home for the Jets. This is a thorny finish to the season.
The most winnable game by record on their schedule is playing the Green Bay Packers at home
on Christmas Day. And the Packers are going to be loved to be playing a late December game in Miami. Are you kidding me? Aaron Rodgers is going to think this is phenomenal.
But both Florida Pro teams had something to prove yesterday, and both laid eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Miami had their worst performance in a month and a half, and Jacksonville laid down in Detroit, in which Trevor Lawrence called it embarrassing. And it was.
I haven't felt this way about the Dolphins this year since the game at the Jets. Even when they lost the next week to the Vikings, Tua was out, and but the Jets' performance was oh snap, this is not good. That's kind of how I felt yesterday. Brock Purdy, by the way, the Niners quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant. Jimmy Garoppolo out for the year with a foot injury, if you missed that. So the Niners down to their third and fourth string quarterbacks. That's a tough break. Honestly. I mean, because when you're a franchise, you don't know, look at the Rams, look at the Packers this year. I mean, you don't know when things are going to go south, when your window is all of a sudden, oh my goodness, it's closing. I mean, the Niners thought, we're winning a Super Bowl this year. We went out and got Christian McCaffrey, for good sakes. We're winning a Super Bowl. Now we got Brock Purdy. P-U-R-D-Y, by the way. Pronounce it accordingly.
You're giving Brock Purdy a rough day. He played a really nice game yesterday.
He did. I will say it's a very nice system. It's kind of like playing quarterback at Georgia. Give Stetson Bennett as much accolades as you want. You don't think there are 50 other guys who could step in and play quarterback at Georgia with those two tight ends and that offensive line? I mean, come on. How many times does the quarterback at Georgia get touched in a game?
And the weapons that Purdy has.
Yeah. Right. Uh-huh.
A Samuel and a McCaffrey and a Kittle. Those are really nice weapons. And an Ayuk just to throw in for good measure.
I know. It's a hell of a law firm you're mentioning here. It really is. Right. Very good offensive line. Certainly a good offensive line. They got one spot on the line they're a little shaky about, but it's a good offensive line. It's a very good play calling coach, and they have weapons at every single position on the offense.
And they prefer to run instead of throw.
Right. They prefer the quarterback to only throw the ball 24 times. So to have a fill-in quarterback, this is the team in which you could still see them making a run.
Right. They give you a fullback, for crying out loud, to block. I mean, they do give you a lot of things on this offense.
But at the end of the day, I mean, it could be late third quarter, early fourth quarter. We're in a 3-point game in January, and you do have Brock Purdy. I mean, we all wonder, can you win big games with the inferior quarterback? In 2022 NFL, can you win the big game with the inferior quarterback? Let's face it, your margin of error is smaller.
And if everything goes according to Hoyle in the playoffs, you're going to get Dallas or Philadelphia for your first playoff game.
Like right now, the way it matches up, the Niners are the 3 seed, and I don't think they're going to stay the 6 seed for long, but technically the Niners would host the Giants. Well, they'd destroy the Giants. And then they'd go to Minnesota, in theory. If Minnesota beat Seattle in the 2-7 matchup, the Niners would go to Minnesota. Right now, if you're the Niners, you're like, oh, please sign me up for the Giants and the Vikings back-to-back. Please. And then you go play the winner of Philly-Dallas, right? In the NFC Championship game. And if it's Dallas, you'll host the game because you're a division champ and they're not. So the Niners still, there's a path here. They could do it. But have we ever had a third-string quarterback in the Super Bowl?
No. No, we've had a few second stringers.
Right.
But this is now uncharted waters for Brock Purdy, the last guy we thought that would be making a playoff run in the National Football League. And it's done. Garoppolo's done for the year.
Trey Lance is done for the year. This is it. Past the trading deadline.
Not that you'd be able to trade for a quarterback at this point anyhow.
But you know what I mean? I mean, at this point, do you have to call some retired quarterbacks? Like, do you think about calling Breeze, Rivers, Fitzpatrick? Honestly, do you think about calling a retired quarterback if you're the Niners?
Or do you ride with Brock Purdy the rest of the way?
You got a Purdy mouth.
I knew it was coming. Told you, I'm taking the Harry Kane every time. Miller and Moulton, we thank you for listening right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I mean, this is where if you're the Niners, God almighty, you'd pick up the phone and you say to the Colts, can you just do us a solid and release Nick Foles? Just release him. We'll make some BS trade with you next year in which, we'll give you a draft pick you don't deserve for some guy. Just, could you release Nick Foles, please? I think the Niners are going to call the Island Coast guy again, Kent Bentkert. They just released him from the practice squad like 3 weeks ago. I'll bet you they sign him back.
Oh my gosh. So Raheem Sterling's one of the English soccer players, left Qatar after learning intruders had broken into his family home back in the UK. So he went back. Sure, he'll be back for the game, but that can't put you in a very good frame of
30
mind.
seconds.
No, it's not a short flight either.
NC State quarterback Devin Leary is going into the portal.
Well, the Clemson quarterback is already in the portal too.
Yep.
10 seconds.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when, along with our final thoughts coming up in roughly 20 minutes' time. Bucks and Saints, Monday Night Football in Tampa. Bucks win despite being just 500 if they are to win. Boy, would they be in control of this division. Man, oh man. And if they lose, oh boy, you start letting the Panthers and the Saints back into this thing and we're serious. Saints would be a half game out. Carolina would be a game out coming out of their bye. Yeah, exactly. Just the facts. This isn't opinion here. It's just the facts. It's depressing, but it's the facts. So,
quite a division.
Bucks favored by 3.5.
Could they just win? Just do your job, win, get this over with?
Bucks, by the way, you go to the ESPN analytics, FPI, the whole thing. They win tonight with the Falcons losing. Chance of winning the NFC South's nearly 90%. Lose, and it's 54%. So just saying. I'm just saying.
It's Andy Dalton in the Saints, for crying out loud.
Oh, Mark, we know. We know. How, by the way, difficult emotionally is this going to be for Jameis tonight? He's been benched. They're 4-8. They've had 2 opportunities to put him back in. They haven't done it. He's got to stand there on the sidelines in Tampa on a 4-8 team in which you know deep down he's like, oh, come on.
I'm better than this guy.
Right. Give me a chance. I was better than him. I got hurt. Why'd you not put me back in? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Bucks and Saints tonight. Tampa 3.5-point favorite. Listen, no worfs. Blocking should be a problem tonight. The Saints defensive front is a challenge. It's always a challenge. And it's been a challenge for the Bucks offensive line when it was a good offensive line. Like the last couple of years.
So how are they going to run the ball tonight?
Exactly. And how are they going to protect Tom? Saints have a cover corner. Saints can get after the quarterback. I think this is a low-scoring game.
That's what they're telling us. This will be another Godwin game, by the way, because Evans and Lattimore are going to be up against one another. This is another Godwin. This is another get Julio Jones involved in the game as quickly as possible.
If there's not points from special teams or like defense off turnovers, don't you have to play the under 41 tonight? I mean, do you think either team's going to get above 21?
No.
Straight up. Do you think either team gets to 21? And in theory, both of them have to get it to go over.
No, how come I could see this game being like, 16-12?
I'm totally with you, Mark. I think 17's definitely the winning score tonight. Unless we get a Browns-Texans game in which we got 2 defensive scores and a punt return.
Well, my 16 was 3 field goals and a touchdown, David. I wasn't doing it in a quirky way, but I just see touchdowns being obviously a premium tonight in this game. That's what Vegas is telling us. The teams are not going to get into the end zone tonight.
I mean, would it shock you if this Bucs Saints game is similar to yesterday's Steelers-Falcons game, 1916? I don't know that would. It wouldn't shock me. So there you have it. Monday Night Football tonight. Big one for Tampa. It's difficult to imagine they're not the NFC South champion if they win tonight.
The problem with Tampa, David, is that it seems like for the last, 5 weeks, every time we talk about the Bucs, it's, if they win this game, they pretty much have won the division. They've been unable to. They've been unable to pull away.
Well, Mark, they're 1 play away from a 3-game winning streak. If you want to do the glass half full, they'd won 2 in a row and they're in Cleveland and they're a 4th down stop. And by the way, Njoku didn't play yesterday. So think about that. Makes that catch even more remarkable. Clearly he was hurting, unless he got hurt in the overtime on the drive. Because Njoku was inactive for the Browns yesterday. So, but they're 1 play away from a 3-game winning streak. It was a team loss, though. The offense had 6 punts and a, possession in the final 30 seconds of a half after they scored their last points in that game. 7 possessions where they barely got across midfield on any of them. Defense obviously had a chance to put the game away. Todd Bowles had a chance to show that he understands clock management and what have you. I mean, it was a team loss. And they're trying to sweep the Saints, a team that until they won early in the season, they hadn't beaten them in the regular season with Brady. So 58%, by the way, ESPN analytics for the Bucs tonight. Basically 58-42.
Well, outside of Godwin, there's really not an offensive player for the Bucs that had a good game last week. I would expect a lot more. And they're going up against a better defense, so I don't know how much more we can expect, but I do think you'll see a better game out of Brady. I think you'll see a better game out of Evans, even though he's locked up against a cover corner. It's just a matter of, to me, seeing how the defense plays tonight. That's not a good offensive team for New Orleans. I mean, David, you made the comment about just getting to 17. There's no way New Orleans should be able to get to 17 against the Tampa Bay Bucs defense. No way.
And with that said, Mark, New Orleans' leading rusher has rushed for more yards than the Bucs' leading rusher. Kamara's got about 60 more yards than Fournette.
And he's Kamara in name only this year.
I mean, he only has one touchdown, but Fournette's only got 3. Olave's got 120 more receiving yards than Mike Evans with only 5 more catches. Same number of touchdowns. Here's the stat that talk about how much Tampa is struggling offensively. Andy Dalton has the same number of touchdown passes as Tom Brady. Say that out loud, slowly. Let it marinate.
I hate asking you this question because I don't know how much research you did, and I know you do it a lot in the game, but the Bucs red zone TD percentage has got to be bottom third in the league.
It is. It is. And, I mean, you see them play and you go, oh, man, you know, they're not far away from being decent. The problem is we've seen the Bucs now for 3 months. Has their A game looked like they can, even though, believe it or not, they beat Dallas at the start of the year?
Have they had an A game really since then?
And that's what you're looking, when you look at the Bucs, you're like, because remember, we're entering that week, Mark, with 2 years ago, they were 7-5. You know, they're 5-6 here. This is right around the time of the year that they, you know, got their you-know-what together. But even if they get their you-know-what together, how high is their ceiling?
David, we haven't, if it's there, we haven't seen it yet. They have not, if there's a best effort, we have not seen it yet, and we're all still waiting because we've seen it in years past with a similar group, and we're kind of waiting for that light to switch, and it hasn't yet. So to me, can Tampa find that gear? I don't know if it'll be tonight, but they've got to find some consistency offensively to get this thing going. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs, presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs, powered by Clutch Vodka.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You You're listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Last year of the shootout under its current format.
What?
It's going to be a LPGA PGA combined event starting next year.
Love it. But that's me. I'm guessing most people will hate it.
Well, you can tell what Live Golf did to this tournament. Because the field sucks this year. May get better players that way.
Well, they should get a who's who on the LPGA Tour for the kind of money that they're throwing around in the Shark Shootout.
But you might be able to get the men. I mean, I don't know if Rory's going to show up because, Norman was once associated with, but you know what I'm saying? Some guys might show up because it's the right thing to do, if you know what I mean. Good move by them to include the LPGA in something right now with everything that's going on.
Well, also, obviously that's the site of the Tour Championship. It's what, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later?
Is that this week?
Yeah. Yes, Spitz, and if they lose tonight, they then are at the Niners, home for the Bengals, and they could be 5-9. It's a big game tonight. This is the game that also gives them wiggle room in which they could lose the next two, be 6-8, and the worst they'd be is tied for first.
You all right over there, Felipe?
I'm good.
Oh, you had a doubleheader last night, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who'd they play?
The girls beat the hell out of Ave Maria, and the boys beat FIU for the first time in like 5 years. Freaking hate FIU.
I hate FIU.
I've never heard anybody ever say that in my life.
I hate
Honestly.
FIU.
You might be the only one.
I hate them.
Okay, is this because of the brawl in the football game like 10 years ago?
Well, there's that. You remember that. Then remember they also beat the University of Miami at Marlins Park, which is the grounds of the Orange Bowl. And then it's also just the other school in Miami.
I don't really know if FIU counts. I mean, you elevating them to your level there is, damn.
Shows you how bad the Canes have been in your lifetime.
I was going to say, you sound like an FIU alum, for goodness sake.
It's awful. But if I didn't go to FGCU, I would have gone to FIU. And it would.
But I hate them.
I hate them. No, I do.
So you would have gone to a school that you don't like.
Correct. And I would have been miserable.
Did you do the whole whatever that Florida State thing was? The
Florida prepay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were going to a state school.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did you not get into Florida State? Did you apply?
I applied and I got into Florida State, but I wanted to go to FGCU instead.
Just the smaller?
Yeah. I feel like I would have been distracted too much.
Huh? Something to be said for that.
Plus, all my friends went, so I would just visit them. It was fun. Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Before we move on to what we normally do in this final segment, if we could just put a bow on the Bucs Saints talk. You know how you and I have both picked out games on the schedule, which we say, I know this doesn't seem like it's a really big game, but could you just play the schedule game with me? And if this team loses this game, what could happen? You know, you and I both circled that Giants-Lions game like 3 weeks ago and said, I know nobody's thinking about this, but if the Giants lose this game, tell me the next win on their schedule. And sure enough, they're 2-1 since losing to the Lions. Okay. The Bucs are at San Francisco. Granted, Brock Purdy, but still. Tampa's Sunday afternoon, short week, cross-country travel at the Niners, and then home for Joe Burrow and the Bengals, who are going to score points against anybody. So you're going to have to score in the mid to upper 20s to beat them minimum. And right now, Tampa doesn't look like a team that can score 27, 28 points against anybody. So, Mark, if the Bucs lose today to fall to 5-7, what do you think their record is 2 games from now heading into the Christmas holidays?
I think it'd be 6-8.
Okay. So you're giving them a split.
I'm giving them a split because the third string quarterback thing does scare me if I'm San Francisco. I mean, it is, you know, can you smell what Brock is cooking?
I like it. I like it. And you know what? He should adopt that. Go get another win, look into the camera, give it the big eyebrow, and walk up to the podium and say, can you guys smell what the Brock is cooking? That would.
And the Rock may answer a job in the USFL or the XFL or whatever the hell it is he owns.
Right. XFL. You're right. But I'm just saying that's how, you know, yeah, they're in the worst division in the league. And you know, that we're still thinking they're going to win the division because they're just the least worst of everybody else. But it gets a little precarious if they lose tonight. You got to admit that. Niners, Bengals, 2-8-4 teams are next up on the schedule. They lose tonight. They are a 5-7 team.
I just don't know who's going to win the division. I mean, someone has to win it, but it's, you know, if the Saints win tonight, it's not like they've got the inside path to win the division.
Oh, no. I mean, listen, Carolina could still win the damn division if the Bucs lose tonight. Honestly, take a look at Carolina's division record. I think it's the best in the division. They don't even know who their quarterback is. I mean, at least the Niners know their quarterback's Brock Purdy. I mean, Carolina's literally like reaching their hand into a raffle and pulling out, and who are we going with? We're going with Darnold this week. What? Yeah, it's who I drew out of the hat. And we're going with Darnold.
But what we're trying to tell everybody is that the Bucs really need to get tonight.
Yes.
At the end of the day, this is a very important game for Tampa Bay.
Yes.
And I think most people get it because it's in the division and all of those things. But with what's ahead for Tampa, holy cow, the Bucs need to get tonight.
So that's all we're trying to say. I mean, after that, it's Arizona, Carolina, and Atlanta. You know, you'd like to think they'd go at least 2-1 down the stretch. But, you know, if you're 5-9 playing the Arizona Cardinals on the road, I mean, that potentially is what you could be. By the way, that's Christmas night. They're playing Arizona on the road.
Merry Christmas from the Tampa Bay Bucs.
It's time for someone to take back this segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
Washington, Jefferson, Jackson all reelected today. 1848, Gemzell Polk triggers the gold rush of 1849 by confirming a gold discovery in California. 1908, the first time U.S. football uniform numerals were used. It was done by the University of Pittsburgh.
Obviously at the behest of the play-by-play guy, right?
I thought it was someone's mom in the stands who couldn't figure out which one was theirs. Prohibition ended today in 1933 when the 21st Amendment is ratified and the 18th Amendment repealed. Pretty solid day. Joe Louis beats Jersey Joe Walcott in 15 for the title in 47. Today in 55, the bus boycotts in Montgomery, Alabama begin. In 68, you'll love this one, David. Phil scores 2 on Tony. It was the debut for Tony Esposito for the Montreal Canadiens. Phil Esposito would have 2 goals on his brother in the 2-2 tie. Couldn't let him have just one. Couldn't just get 1 goal and get the W. Had to score the second one and get the tie.
All I could think of is during his heyday, the sign at the one church in Boston. The year that he scored, 71 or 72 goals, which at the time was just, people couldn't even fathom scoring that many goals in a season. Gretzky would score 90-something a decade later, but at the time, Esposito scoring 71 or 72 goals was unfathomable. And one of the churches in Boston had a sign that says, Jesus saves and Espo scores on the rebound.
In 68, the Stones released Beggar's Banquet. In 73, Paul McCartney and Wings released the Band on the Run album. Today in 74, the final episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus airs on BBC TV. Today in 1978, Pete Rose signs his 4-year deal with the Phillies, becoming baseball's highest paid player at a 4-year, $32 million contract. Marcus Allen wins his Heisman today in 81.
Wait, hold on a second. All right, that was 4 years, $3.2 million.
I'm sorry, because they don't have 4 years, $3.2 million in 78.
Right,
I apologize.
Right. He was the highest paid player,
and I knew that was wrong and didn't correct it. You're right.
But I mean, he was the highest paid player in baseball, making $800,000 a year. Right, because I believe it was Nolan in free agency a year later who signed the first $1 million contract, and the sport went, apoplectic. What? $1 million a year? Nope.
Today in 92, the first SEC championship game. Alabama would beat Florida 28-21. Ocean's 11 premiered today in 2001, and OJ was sentenced to 33 years for kidnapping and armed robbery today in 2008.
33 years, huh? Did a lot less.
They did. Those born today that are no longer with us. Martin Van Buren, he was our 8th president. General Custer, Walt Disney, Strom Thurmond, and Little Richard. Those celebrating birthdays today, Jim Plunkett is 75. Lanny Watkins is 73. Tom Purcher, 71. Wrestler Larry Zbyszko, that's just for Adam in our Twitch chat room, is 68. And Art Monk is 55 years old today. What did I miss, David?
A few famous people died on this day. Nelson Mandela, 9 years ago, died at the age of 95. Roone Arledge, for those of us in the industry, died 20 years ago. Beverly Hills Cop, I believe, debuted today in 84.
I had that debuting last week.
All right. I got it released
we had different sites, and they don't always jive.
Well, you know what they sometimes do? It gets released in 13 theaters, and then a week later it gets nationwide release. I think it went national today in 84. That's what my thing says. That one still holds up, by the way. The original?
Oh, yeah. He's funny. This just in.
Yeah. And also this just in. That's one of those movies where if I'm flipping around and I find it, I'm done. I just watch it to the end. Doesn't matter where I pick it up either. Could pick it up early with the real life Detroit, sergeant there yelling at him. Could pick it up midway through. Could pick it up with the scenes in the Beverly Hills, police station, in which he turns to him and says, I really had him going there if you just would have followed my lead. Whatever. I'm in.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
We go to New Hampshire, where Kevin Butler, not the kicker, had taken the trash to a transfer station. And when he got home, he found out that one of the things he threw away at the very end was a napkin that had his wife's wedding rings in them. So he went back to the transfer station that had some 20 tons of garbage and asked if he could start digging. Believe it or not, after about 5 or 6 scoops, they saw a white bag with the telltale clue. One of the things he had thrown away was celery stalks. He could see the stalk sticking out of the side of the bag, and I'll be damned, he found the 2 rings. For the bad, we go to North Carolina, where a couple of people thought it would be fun to shoot up a substation that caused power to go out for 40,000 customers in North Carolina. Police are still trying to find the idiots that did this. Power has been since restored, and it cost plenty of money. And finally, the ugly, we go across the pond, where on a British highway, retired merchant sailor was doing a whopping 8 miles per hour on his scooter when he was pulled over. He had backed up traffic for several miles. Not really sure why he decided to scoot down the road, but he and Scooter were taken back off the road into safety, and he has now been named Dennis, the A38 Menace. And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, December the 5th, 2022.
Obviously, Monday Night Football tonight. And then, little this, little that. NHL. What do we got? We got 6 games. None of the Florida teams in action. Lightning and Panthers have the night off. Vegas and Boston, by the way. Nice little matchup in Beantown. I mean, Las Vegas is 18-7-1, and Bruins are 20-3.
Both Florida teams in action tonight in the association. The Magic at home to lose to the Magic at home playing the Bucks, where the Bucks are a 9.5-point favorite on the road. And the Heat on the road in Memphis taking on the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are a mere 1-point favorite in a night of lots of NBA action.
So Nick Bollettieri passed away today at the age of 91. Scott Satterfield left Louisville for Cincinnati during our show today.
Keep telling a guy you want him out. Eventually he'll leave. They've only been trying to fire him since the 3rd week of the season and replace him with the Purdue coach. Now the job's open.
Let me ask you this. If you're Jeff Brom, stay at Purdue, and, they'll probably renegotiate your contract. You just took them in the Big Ten title game, throw you a little more money. Or do you go, you know what? We're getting rid of divisions in this conference. I'm out of here.
I'd run to Louisville. I hate to say that, but David, Purdue's never going to play for a Big Ten title again in football. That was it. That was their one shot. When you get rid of divisions, there's no way in hell they're ever playing in that game again.
Unless, are they keeping divisions for one more year? Or are they redoing it when USC and UCLA join? But yes, your point is this is probably the highlight. And it wasn't your best team, but it doesn't matter. The West was a mess. You won it. Congratulations. Nice performance Saturday, by the way. They put, although Michigan did score that late one to cover.
Had a game at the half. Played hard.
Know what the spread is. Hell, it was still a game early 4th quarter. They were down 9 with 10 minutes to go and had the ball. I mean, it was still doable. Wasn't likely, but it was doable. Yeah, I'm with you. I'd run to Louisville. Besides, it's a basketball school.
Well, they both are.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Brazil and Korea at 2 today in the World Cup.
By the way, both matches are on Big Fox. If you're into, football and you're into this World Cup with the U.S. out, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. The two matches today, both on Big Fox.
Kind of looking forward till we get to the next round. These games have been okay in the beginning of the knockout round. We get to the quarters here. I think we'll get a little more interesting. And obviously the match on Saturday, England and France, is going to be epic.
Pay attention today, the baseball stuff, the winter meetings, they all got to, I think, Vegas yesterday. So some stuff's starting to heat up. Verlander's being linked to the Mets after they lost DeGrom. Then he could get a Scherzer-like deal, 2-3 years, $40+ million. And now the word is that Judge is going to get a 9-year deal. He's 31. Trout's AAV is 35.5. So if you just go something around there, okay, that's like, 9 for 315, 9 for 320 for Judge.
And the word was out late last week that 300 was the starting point.
That the Yankees offered him 8 for 300. And apparently it's Steinbrenner doing it. Cashman reportedly doesn't want to go this high and what have you. So there you go. Pay attention. Winter meeting started yesterday. Usually stuff happens.
Miller and Moulton. Enjoy the soccer and the basketball and get ready for Bucks Saints tonight. It is a monster game for Tampa Bay. They win it, well, the division's theirs. They lose it, who knows what the hell could happen. I do know we'll be back at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters